with me. I talked to Thran Dennis a few weeks ago, especially one of the people, as I mentioned, one of the people I've known the longest. There's only one person I've known longer, and it's my brother, Earl Holland Sr. It's weird. It feels like now you have the name tag, like those NFL players where they start putting the third or the hyphenated names. Like at one point, London Fletcher went by London Fletcher hyphen Baker in honor of his grandma. Now, like, I see like Edward Holland Sr.
Yeah. I was watching a game recently. A player had a name on there, had senior on there. I mean, Steve Smith had senior on there. So I was like, now they're going to the senior route. And I didn't know that the guy had his grandmother's name hyphenated. So.
Oh, yeah, a lot of those guys. That's like with Maurice Jones. Oh, sorry to cut you off, but like with Maurice Jones-Drew. When I played some of those games, he was Maurice Drew. That Jones came out of nowhere.
Or that his wife made a feminism. But hey, you're going to take my last name. I'm not taking yours.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. I mean, you find those rare cases where the husband takes the wife's last name, unless your last name is absolutely awful. I mean, like former MLB reliever Paul Ossenmacher. And if you look at it, it starts. Well, that's not, but the first three letters, ASS. So, I mean, is ass and mocker.
Okay, yeah, that is a terrible name.
There's a lot worse.
Yeah, I can't think of none right now, but I'm sure in the middle of our discussion, I might pop a name drop one. And like, okay, yeah, maybe that is a weird name.
Yeah, because that's pretty much the sort of kind of non sequitur conversations we often have. Something will just come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh yeah, you know. That's why I always think, what do you say?
That's usually how all our conversations go anyway. We just start discussing something, and then out of the middle of the blue, we pop something else and talking about that, and then go back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, so it's basically a real life episode of Family Guy without all the vomit and fart jokes, I guess. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. So, yeah, because I don't know where I'm going to go with this.
Actually, I don't watch baseball like that. People try to get me to watch Family Guy. I was like, it's just not my cup of tea. I was a Simpson guy. I love The Simpsons. I watched Simpsons probably, give or take, maybe 15 years. 2019, 20. The last time I watched Simpsons, I think.
Wow, I've been watching
Simpsons movies.
Oh, since the Simpsons movie, wow. I've been watching them a lot, and it's funny when the Simpsons went on to FXX and they had the marathon of every Simpsons ever. The funny thing was, I thought there was a period where I had missed a ton of episodes. It's like a real small handful. So over almost 30 years, you come and look at it, I think, wow, I've seen nearly every episode. Especially I've been watching, every Sunday night, especially for the past, 6, 7, 8 seasons, and going through every one of those episodes. I remember especially a ton of the first 20 years, and then I see ones that I didn't expect that I had seen. So it's like I said, it's a few episodes I don't remember watching, but yeah, I am thoroughly surprised of how many that I can actually say I've seen.
Yeah, I'm at a loss of sauce, and it's set up on Simpsons. Futurama came out, and then they got something most recently on Netflix called Disenchanted or Enchanted or something like that. Supposed to be a Simpson-like type show, but like saying those type of shows, I lost it. Now you talking about the anime? I'm a Dragon Ball Z guy. I'm Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, all that stuff.
And the funny. And I have this habit of saying, and the funny thing is, and I watched a little bit of Dragon Ball Z with you guys, and it wasn't something like, anime is where it's weird. No, just, I watched it, and you can see that maybe the American version of it, they tend to stall a lot. They try to draw out an episode longer than they need to. Too much drama just to make you end up watching the show. And you could watch over 3 or 4 weeks, especially like, the saga with Frieza or Majin Buu, and those things could have easily been done in like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. you brought up the most you brought up the two most talked about sagas that everybody always talks about. Damn, how long does it take Goku to power up to be Super Saiyan? I'll never forget. It took over a span of 10 days, Monday through Friday, on Toonami from 3 to 3:30, just to watch Goku transform from regular Goku to Super Saiyan Goku. And after he did that, it took even longer for him to beat Frieza. But like I'm saying, it's all the drama. We loved it. You know what I mean? It's all the build up to it and everything else. All the episodes fast paced and everything else. And then once you get to the meat of the series, then that's when they say, you know, we're going to stall because guess what? Now we can make season 3, 4, 5, and 6 out of this one little section and stuff. It's what they did. They had the box collection and everything else like that.
Yeah, and sometimes, depending on what it is, maybe not everybody's going to be constantly invested, waiting for that long game, that long play, and everything to work out. The slow burn, that's probably the best term to use. And a while, it'll start making you think, man, is all this time worth it being invested and maybe having to wait longer than I need to for the payoff?
No. Yes and no. Easy. I put it to make it simple. The most simple thing is that. So they came out with Dragon Ball Super Battle of the Gods. It's an hour or half, 2 hour long movie, pretty much. So from that movie alone, they made season 1 out of Dragon Ball Super. So you took a 2 hour long movie and made it almost 25 episodes long. So like I said, like you said earlier, why not make the movie 2 hours long? Make a 2 hour movie, but guess what? They did it, and guess what? And they still use that as a platform for the episodes. They actually use that in the Resurrection of F as their two movies and put them at the first 2 seasons of the Dragon Ball Super saga, and then he went on from there.
Do you think they'll ever make a really good live action Dragon Ball movie?
Oh man. To be honest with you, Hollywood won't, but there's a lot of live action little docuseries on YouTube that look phenomenal. I mean, they don't have the budget like the Hollywood studios have, but they take these actions and series and different situations from the series, and they make these 20-minute long films, which are phenomenal, and they don't look cheapy. Those films 20 minutes of those films was better than the whole hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes of the technical. I'm sorry.
Oh,
that movie's terrible, man.
So the mini movie, sort of like how they did with Mortal Kombat with Michael Jai White and those.
Yes. Oh man, that was fantastic. The same thing with I don't know if you follow Bat and the Sun on YouTube or not, but those guys are responsible for doing like Superman versus Truth and Batman versus whoever, and pretty much they did a nice little series with Power Rangers. It's been like a darker version universe of it and stuff. So they're not the kid-friendly Power Rangers we used to watch, but it's like more violent and more towards adults and everything else. And it was done on a limited budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw one of the I think I saw one of the episodes. I feel like where the Black Ranger died at least, or
yeah, I mean there was a I think the one I've seen, it was Black Ranger. But majority of Power Rangers were dead, except for the Red Ranger, Pink Ranger, and come to find out at the end of it, it was Tommy who was the Bad Ranger. At the end of the whole little sequence and stuff, it shows like him and Lord Jet's seat, and then all of a sudden it pans around and boom, it's the White Ranger in the throne and stuff. So,
that makes me think. As soon as you said Tommy and the White Ranger, it makes me think. Did you see the commercials the promos they did for that Power Rangers comic book series with Tommy as both the combination of the Green and White Ranger, and he's sort of the overlord, and he's trying to destroy the Power Rangers?
See, that's what they were. That's the one they were basing. They were basing that off.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the darker thing I saw on YouTube. But the one they got coming out, of course, is going to be more kids friendly and politically correct and stuff. So
You're not politically correct, but I mean, and that is a funny thing. Cause okay, so you know me, I'm a type of person that likes scouring YouTube at all times of night because sometimes it's all about sort of either a thirst for nostalgia or, you know, or just trying to find out something new. And I'm sitting back watching some of these old cartoon intros and promos from like the 70s and 80s and 90s. And I was watching the intros for the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show or Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner show, you know, where they did the intro, or Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are singing. And it makes me wonder, why is it that something like Looney Tunes isn't on TV at a very high rate like it used to be? Remember on Nickelodeon we'd have Looney Tunes. They'd do a half hour of Looney Tunes. On Cartoon Network they were doing Looney Tunes. And maybe that's one reason. It's maybe because, well, Warner Brothers owns the rights. It's on Cartoon Network and it's just sitting there doing nothing. The other thing is, I don't think it's changing tastes of adults, because if they're talking about how stuff on television is too violent for their kids, what did you grow up watching? And I know half of these people are my age and your age and grew up watching. What was the stuff what did they watch on TV? G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes survived for almost 70 years, either in TV, on movies, on 3 networks. How is it all of a sudden just a non-entity? Is it because Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network dropped the ball and that they got a stranglehold on it and they don't air them? Or is it that people all of a sudden have changing tastes?
Well, man, so Warner Brothers, right? They own DC, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so let's take it like this. So DC right now is going to have their own streaming service, right? So they're getting away from Netflix and everything else. Most recently, Disney is coming out with their own service. They're taking all their Disney movies and all their Marvel movies off, but keeping the Marvel series and stuff on Netflix and stuff. Now, you alluded to is Warner Brothers, right? I'm sure down the road, maybe another year or two, they're going to have Warner Brothers classic downloading streaming service, just like Disney and stuff. So why not cash cow your own? Why not cash cow, make your own money instead of having to have a middleman to make the additional assets and everything else and stuff. And like I said, Looney Tunes back then, Looney Tunes was great. We're all growing up watching Looney Tunes and stuff. But as we get older, or as we start having kids and as generations start to change, people tend to get offended by certain things that happens in movies and stuff. So, I mean, movies and TV, especially Looney Tunes back in the day. I've seen some stuff on YouTube that I never knew Looney Tunes had even produced. They never made TV. Never made TV. You know what I mean? Like you were talking one about, was it Cold Black and the Seven Dwarfs? I never knew about that until you said something to me. So that's maybe why Looney Tunes was great back then. All the scrutiny now because, hey, Looney Tunes is racing to the A, man, and that's why it's not getting the type of publication now out on TV and everything else.
But I feel like even Warner Brothers did a job policing themselves, and it just like if you go on the WWE Network, and at least we can intertwine sports with it because it is semi-sports podcast. But first thing that WWE does when it comes to old pay-per-views, they say these wrestlers were playing characters, and this does not define. This is not the company opinion. These were playing characters, and it may be from a different time. And that's what they did with those banned 9 or 10 cartoons. And they're on YouTube. You can find them. They're definitely on YouTube. So that is not an issue. You can find them. If for some reason they keep showing up every time I'm looking at old cartoons, it says Warner Brothers banned cartoons. And yeah, I mean, because you look at it, they made fun of a lot of ethnicities, the Japanese, the Germans, yes, black folks, definitely.
Have you seen the one with Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam?
No, I know there's one with Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, where Elmer Fudd was black. That one. I
didn't see that.
Oh yeah. Basically, you could tell it's Elmer Fudd. But
my correction, it was Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
And Bugs Bunny was like talking to Elmer Fudd like, Elmer Fudd was trying to kill him, hunt him and stuff. And so he started like, a slave from back in the day. Oh no, master, please no, master. You know what I mean? Like I was like, well, damn, I didn't know that. I didn't know they had that type of stuff going on back then.
Oh no, you remember there was some episode where Bugs was in blackface singing "Mammy."
Yeah.
And then you see, and now they changed this up where some of those cartoons were singing "Mammy," but it ain't no blackface.
Yeah, that's true. But, and I always tell people my go-to movie. I tell people it's by far. If you're older now, you probably know what I'm about to say. The movie I'm talking about, a lot of people now know that's my number one go-to movie, and everybody from our age and should know that Dumbo, with the three little crows, by far was the most stereotypical racial movie ever. Look, most people say that's not racist. This is crows. I said yes, it's crows, but that's back in the day though. That's what he used to call black people back in the day with crows and stuff, and all the jive talking and heckling people and stuff. But
and that's
people like.
And that's all the 40s, right? That's 1940s. So they must be those old jazz corner ones. All they're missing is someone singing like Louis Armstrong. If you need more of a description, that would probably fit that. But and even then, really, the violence on Looney Tunes cartoons were just basically slapstick. I think that anybody with a thinking brain, adult or a kid, knows. It's not, it's not real. Who's going to buy dynamite to blow something up?
Well, I tell you one thing. You're wrong about that. The one thing I know is real, and a lot of people tell you now, the speed knots. So you get hit, them bumps come up real quick. That's the real thing in the world.
Oh, look at Cardi B. I saw the Cardi B photo.
So speed knots, boom. As soon as you get hit, that thing comes up. So that's the only thing that portrays. The only thing from cartoons that is real in real life is speed knots. They come up, boom.
Man, I wish it was really true that you could walk off the edge of a cliff and be fine until you look down.
Oh,
that's cartoon law. Like on Tiny Toons, they talk about the cartoon physics. You're fine until you look down, and that's when it's over.
That's crazy. But guess what, though, man? By the time you take your first step off of there, you're already looking down, and boom, pretty much dead. So that concept's gone.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody going to break walking across something without looking down. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. And as soon as you start saying, and I had this topic broached a while ago talking about realness, and it's no, like I said, it's no hidden rumor. We grew up watching pro wrestling. We know that it's predetermined and it's entertainment. And somebody came up with one of the best points in the world. Yeah, someone tells you, oh, wrestling's fake. And you were crying when Spider-Man died in Infinity War. So tell me that what you're not watching is fake. And there's no issue with that, but people better be careful with what they want to talk about as fake entertainment, because everything we watch is basically contrived. Everything that we watch is basically fiction.
Yeah,
as much as I like flying DeLoreans and be able to use a lightsaber, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But the one thing that I see, and the thing is, we're talking about fake and fiction and stuff. But the one thing I have noticed in these movies, like Terminator, which started the whole AI being smart and everything else, or Short Circuit, and Short Circuit was after Terminator. But the artificial intelligence, like you're saying, see how as we're getting older, we're depending on more and more of the AI. You got the cloud. Guess what? Then you go on Google. You get on Google before you come back again. So I had your search. Like, oh, this is what you liked before and everything else and stuff. And like you're saying, and artificial intelligence, as I've seen from Avengers, Age of Ultron, I had a discussion with everybody else before too at work. And you may think I'm crazy, but I'm still sticking with what I believe is that Ultron was a perfect example of how he's seen us as human beings. We do all this damage, we do all this war with each other and stuff. So why not Why not get rid of a population and then restart a population?
Terminator did the same thing too. They rethought. They say, "Oh, human beings for themselves. Why not genocide? The genocide and stuff. Why not do the form and everything else and stuff?" But that's my personal opinion. You might think I may be a theory, people that make those theories and stuff. But like I say, I just say watch out in the future because they're making a lot of They're making artificial robots that look like humans now. So
like the Abe Lincoln. Did you see the Abe Lincoln robot?
No, I haven't seen Abe Lincoln.
It was on it was on Twitter. They were showing an animatronic Abe Lincoln. He had all these facial features. He was doing all the facial movement and all this stuff, and it was really weird. It made, but you were talking about artificial intelligence. I've never seen the movie, but it's probably something to recommend. 2001: A Space Odyssey, where he's on the ship and the computer system is HAL, and all of a sudden the guy gives Hal the order and Hal won't follow it, and he feels like he has to kill the operator because there's some reason. But that's an example, probably one of the early examples of artificial intelligence coming to life and taking over. And that's something I haven't seen the movie, but that's one of those things I distinctly remember from clips and excerpts of it. So yeah, that was probably way before Terminator, and even Short Circuit. That's
see, a movie that did a good portrayal of what robots shouldn't do was iRobot. Robots had laws, and the first robot law was a robot shall not harm you. And another one was that robots can't think or have feelings. So, I'm a big sci-fi nut. You already know that.
Yeah. But another example, I don't know how much of Star Trek Next Generation you watch, but look at Data. Data, I sometimes wonder if that was sort of more their android equivalent of a Spock.
Yeah.
And that might be an example, just sort of, Data's, he's learning more things. Spock is just not logic, always uses logic because, half Vulcan, half human, but tries to use more of his Vulcan side using logic and less emotion. But yeah, Data probably a good example of sort of, I've sort of lost what my opinion was going to be on that. But yeah, Data, you just looking at Data on Star Trek Next Generation, that's a good example of what everybody maybe sort of wants robots to be like.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is, man. That's how it is. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but people starting to depend way too much on technology. People are forgetting how to do stuff the old way. People are depending on online banking, and because online banking is not going to immediately take out what's coming out your account. It's may take a day or two before you know it. Like, hey, I got extra money in here, then you end up spending that money. And your account will go overdrawn and stuff. Like I said, we were taught old school. Get a checkbook, write down your withdrawals, write down whatever you spend, write down whatever you deposit, and everything else, and you keep track with it that way. But like I said, we're going to the age of technology now. You know what I mean? They got the phones that recognize your face to open up the phone and stuff. So.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, especially when it comes to online banking and paying bills, I've never been a fan of autopay. That's a way, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, auto banking is a way, while it seems great in the concept, you don't have to worry about going in, logging in, doing this and paying that. If you don't have the money at a particular time and they take that out, then you're screwed because then you got the overdraft fees and then other things that you're trying to buy at that point. It's like, oh man, I don't have the money to pay for it because they have to pay this and the other thing. And other times when you want them to take the money out when you have it, they never do. But when you don't want them to take the money out, they do.
Well, see, I say for instance, they'll do on the first of the month. They'll go ahead and take it out on either the 30th or 29th. I'm like, it's supposed to be taken out on the first. And most times we're taking it out on the first, they don't take it out until 4 days later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So autopay is stupid. Some people like it because autopay, like, we'll give you a $10 discount if you autopay.
Yeah, that's the illusion of comfort and a discount because you can't just get up and put in and pay your payment yourself. I mean, I have a calendar.
Listen. People are lazy. We know that people are lazy, man. And anything that can be easy for them, they'll do it. So auto pay or lazy people.
Yeah, I had a discussion with one of my guests, Dante Finney, episode 3 for anyone who's listening for the first time, and we were just talking about technology. How is technology making things a little tougher on people, making things easier? Is it making people lazier? And sort of paraphrasing what he said, and again, you guys can go back and listen to episode 3. Sometimes technology has its benefits and its sometimes its hindrances. It can help you get a better look on your health and what you're doing, and sort of give you more data and everything on things you're doing. You can help track your weight and other things like that. It also makes it easier to fall into lazy habits. Now you can have food delivered to you, especially using your phone. I mean, even with the old ways, you had to use a phone to call someone. It's not like you can send a carrier pigeon out to Pizza Hut and get your pizza.
I can imagine that pizza coming. That pizza's all messed up.
Well, if you tie it to the pigeon's leg right, and it doesn't get caught or get preoccupied with something else, your order should be right.
Guaranteed never late. Yeah, I don't believe that.
Well, the bird will be late, but your order shouldn't be. But yeah, I think with the internet that can sometimes play a hindrance. It makes people a little more reliant on less reliant on themselves. I guess sometimes it's better. Well, computer can't let me down. Other people disappoint me, but computers can't let me down.
Yeah, and Dante's right. Because definitely good for fitness and health, because I use my MyFitnessPal app, and it helps me track all my food I eat. So that works. The Fitbit app helps track my steps, my exercise levels, exercise time, everything and stuff. So like I said, yeah, it got its good, it got its bad. So
one of the things we talked about before we started recording, and one of the things you mentioned this all in a Facebook post, you were talking about how basically paraphrasing it, there's a lack of originality when it comes to movies and television shows now. A lot of people are just either doing remakes or reboots. Like one of the things, I don't know if you heard it, so the original creator of All in the Family and the Jeffersons was talking about doing reboots of the Jeffersons' Good Times. He already did a reboot of One Day at a Time on Netflix. And Norman Lear, he's about 94 years old, and he's talking about redoing his own shows. And the biggest thing is, why not do those of less popular shows, that really didn't get a chance, or like were really poor concepts back then, because especially when you only have 3 channels, a lot of shows would get more ratings because you had no other choice. What else were you going to watch? You either had ABC, you had NBC, you had CBS.
Well, you know how we live.
Maybe PBS. There was no VCR.
16, 28, 47. Everybody know that.
And even then, you didn't have NBC. You had 16 with CBS. 47, which apparently didn't come on until the early 80s, basically would show half of its morning, morning schedule, NBC stuff, so you'd get a bunch of game shows and things like that, and then at night you get ABC's TV schedule, and then 28 was PBS. Yeah. I'm like, I think the 50s and 60s you had, in the 50s there was 4 networks. There was ABC, NBC, CBS, and the Dumont Network. And which funny thing?
Yeah, as we were growing up, we were getting 16, 28, and 47.
Yeah, and if
we got lucky, we got the little static channels in.
Yeah, the low power TV stations, but even then, there weren't that many on that area. It was surprising enough there was at least 2 TV stations, let alone 1.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where there was plenty of shows on in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and probably just 2 years ago that were poorly conceived or didn't get a fair shake on TV. There were some shows that really should have gotten a fair shake, but people who run the networks, I've come to this conclusion, they're idiots. They're completely idiots. They're complete idiots, and they always have been. I'll use this example. I was watching this E! True Hollywood Story about Family Feud.
Yeah.
So, and they talk about when the concepts initially came out in the 70s. You know how of course, you know, when you play, if the other team gets 3 wrong answers, it goes over to the other team to steal the bank. One of the network executives didn't like the concept of stealing the bank. Yes, it's the stupidest thing in the world.
I mean,
stealing the bank.
So what you want them to lose? So to get 3 wrong.
So they get nothing for it?
Yeah. Okay. That's
some of these people, I just wonder how they became network executives. There are some people now I wonder how they became network executives. And I go back to the line from Tropic Thunder with Tom Cruise, and he talks to Bill Hader's character. Seriously, a nutless monkey can do your job.
Yes, exactly. A nutless.
I can put together a schedule on there that seems very that can be counter that, you know, if you want to counter program any network, you feel like I can put together a schedule. Anyone, Jasmine could put together a schedule, and it'd be better than some of these network executives. And Jasmine, what, 3 or 4?
3, yeah.
She can put together a schedule. If she can put together a schedule, probably it'd be more entertaining than half of the stuff that's on television now. I think network executives are useless.
Speaking of Family Feud, I mean, I love the fact that Steve Harvey's on there, and I love the fact that, you know, he's making the show popular again. But the thing I don't like is they're using him to turn a show that used to be serious and everything else. Now everybody just want to come on there and be the next YouTube highlight. You know what I mean? Like I said, don't get me wrong. I think it's funny. I think it's all funny and stuff. But you know, but they're just kind of using him now. Like, oh, Family Feud ain't the feud it used to be. You know, back in the day, boom, if they answered a question, this and that and everything else and stuff. But as it got popular later on and stuff, you know, I just think some people are legitimately really. Let's
hey, they talk about YouTubeable moments.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, look back at.
What's the older guy's name that first started the show?
Oh, Richard Dawson. There's the one where they had the military guy. He said, name one of the 3 bears. He said, Yogi. And then Richard Dawson, he's trying to keep his composure. And it's like, this man flies planes for us. He flies jets for us. So, I mean, there've been plenty of stupid answers over the years. There's just no way to record it.
And I hate the fact. Yeah, I'm not hating on that. I think it's funny. I mean, because those people were legitimately like, hey, they just thought was the first thing that came to their head. Like the one he asked, name an animal that has 3 letters. He said alligator. He said, are you sure?
But in that situation, there's no Card Against Humanity says, there's no take backsies. Once you say it, it's there.
Yeah, once you say it, people look at you like, did you really say it? But like I say, as Steve Harvey got there, it's like people answer the questions, and some people like there's some questions that there are some questions that, hey, you know what, this might be an answer. Like the one question they asked the lady, name something that gets smaller as you get older, and the first thing she said was the penis. And I mean, like I say, maybe the first thing she thought of. I'm not sure, or maybe she did just to be funny. But you know, I thought it was funny. But they're like kind of making a mockery out of it now. Like, oh, let's get these families on here and have these people act stupid and everything else and stuff.
I don't think it's, and that's the thing. After, and this, oh man, being on a game show, and maybe it's different because after being on Sports Jeopardy and Jeopardy within itself is a little more academic, more scholarly, more knowledge based, and you know, seeing some of these other game shows, they go for more characters with more personality. Yeah. They go for people that, you know, that you'll want to root for, and which is great because you're gonna have. Because I feel like with anything, you need someone that people will want to watch, want to enjoy. Because if it's a boring contestant,
I love Jeopardy. I think Jeopardy by far Jeopardy has kept its you know, integrity. See, Alex Trebek, he's the one that's carrying the show, and by him doing the lyrics and stuff for rap songs, and Alex Trebek got a good personality and stuff. Yeah. I think he makes the show what it is, and then he carries over to the contestants and stuff. Most contestants on there are shy, so of course you're not going to get no type of crazy answer, you know, like from Sean Connery.
You'll occasionally get it. If someone who's losing, they someone put a Turd Ferguson reference on their Final Jeopardy answer. I mean, the funny thing was, I don't know if you saw it was a high school teen tournament years ago. This one kid, his name was Leonard Cooper, and basically he looked like teenage Michael Jackson. Fro, had the big fro, same skin complexion, same nose, or nostrils, as Eddie Griffin would say. Same thing. Came to the Final Jeopardy question on the final day of the tournament. And they were talking, the question was about, this person said, this is your day in history. I can't think of the question in particular, but he wrote, because he did the math apparently, it's like, I don't know, some guy who was in World War II, but I just won $50,000 or something, or, and he won the money because he did the math right. Because if he didn't do the math right, he would have been on YouTube for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, and it's things like that. And one thing that Trebek said, that's the thing I love about these tournaments, because they have great personalities and they have a great sense of humor. And it's funny. I feel like that Jeopardy, fairly or unfairly, gets this whole knock that it's so stiff and rigid, and it's so upper crusty and so intellectual. And maybe that's Let me
tell you though, this is the one thing. The one thing I had learned from Jeopardy is that it doesn't matter how much history, how much art, how much modern stuff, It's just like common sense stuff. There was stuff on there that people had these PhDs and degrees and stuff couldn't answer a simple question that, but like I said, you're like completely different than me, but like simple questions that I would answer, that I would know, like, wow, how you didn't know that, because it's just so simple and stuff. But see, for you study there, and you study all different types of 6 types of fields. I'm sure you take that smart person on regular Jeopardy, put on Sports Jeopardy, to the dumbest person in the world.
Well, it depends on how. And there's the funny thing, and I'm trying to break myself to the habit of saying here's a funny thing. But one thing I've seen on Jeopardy, especially now since Sports Jeopardy is no longer in production at the moment, is that there was a lot of more sports questions being put on Jeopardy now. Yep, and then we saw the football category where nobody got a single one of them right.
That's what I'm saying. How are you this intelligent, but you don't know anything about, at least know a little something, at least know 5% of sports? I don't understand. How are you this intelligent? 100% of history and 100% of art, 100% of what are the next Hubble telescopes coming out, but you don't know 5% of what team won the Super Bowl last year. That's crazy. People don't know that. And to this day, I'm gonna do a survey and ask people who won the Super Bowl last year. The Patriots. That's the answer most people give me.
Like I said, and the biggest thing is that it's not even just sports, TV and pop culture.
Yeah. So people are out of tune. They're out of tune with that.
And man, makes it even worse. Black history. There was a category about the historical thing, and they were talking about the city in North Carolina where 4 black students sat at a counter to protest segregation.
Yeah.
No one got it right. Someone said Charlotte, someone said Raleigh, and then no one knew it was Greensboro. Some of those things.
It's not being taught.
Oh, yeah.
It's not being taught. It's not being taught in school. Come on, we already know that. It's not being taught.
I'm not gonna lie about, like I said, going to an HBCU, reading about those stories, being black. You sort of know some of those stories, and not everybody knows that. I mean, like I said, I didn't live it. You didn't live it.
No,
but
didn't.
A lot of people know that stuff.
That's part of our history.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and I don't want to. Yeah, and there's some questions. Somebody, and when it comes to stuff about Black history, it goes back to the Chris Rock joke about, he's like, he thought he'd be safe. All he had to do was say Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King. And then they asked him about a question about Rosa Parks. He's like, which woman stood on the bus, refused to give up her seat on the bus? He's like, woman, Martina Luther King. And things like that. And it's like,
Lord have mercy.
And it's just, believe me, I am far from the knowledgeable on African American history, but I know enough that if I were to get on Jeopardy, if a Final Jeopardy question came about African American history, people are done. A lot of people are done.
They might put zero.
Yeah.
Zero wage or nothing.
Like, for example, there was a question on the September 13th episode of Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy. It is, I think it was American cities. The category is, I think it was American cities. And it talked about Ronald Reagan and Ronald Reagan. So it involves history, it's a bit of geography, and it involves sports. Because here's a question. So it says Ronald Reagan, a movie film starring Ronald Reagan, known for his most famous role, was had its premiere in this city. I think it was 1944 or so. The first thing that came to mind when you think of Ronald Reagan, when you think of Ronald Reagan as an actor, what is the most famous role that you can think of him? There's only one, and I knew that from the beginning.
It's on their movie.
Yeah, well, they wanted the city where the movie debuted. If you think of his movie, then it'll give you the clue, and then it'll. I never knew
the actor.
I've never seen it, but he had this role in Newt Rockney All American, where he's the punter, George Gipp, and he's like win one for the Gipper. Oh. First thing, it was George Gipp. He played for Notre Dame. Notre Dame is in South Bend, Indiana. Not a single person got it.
South Bend, Indiana, yeah. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
One person got Indianapolis. Right state, wrong city. And everybody else couldn't think of it. If I was on there and I had the third place person's total, and I went all in like she did, I would have won. I would have beat every single person on there. And there are people who had 3 times as much as she did.
Did she win?
No, she lost because she bet it all and got it wrong.
Damn.
But seriously, because she had 6,600, somebody else had 17,000, somebody else had 14,000. If she got it right, bet it all, the other guy who was in the lead bet about 8,000. Got it wrong, would have beat everybody. And just like I think about my final episode of Sports Jeopardy. Had I only bid 5,000 as opposed to trying to make sure I beat second place by 1, I win. But I'm not upset about that. It's just like, it's all about wagering. And that's the big thing that...
You have to take chances in life. You got to.
Yeah. And
but what if you didn't? What if you didn't and you got it right? And he got it right and he bet it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you ever get a chance, look behind the scenes on Jeopardy and Final Jeopardy, and you see in the control room how they see it, how they do the behind the scenes stuff in the control room. The people in the control room can see what the answers are before anybody else, and they sort of relay that to Alex after that. Because they'll have 3 black screens up when it's Final Jeopardy. You'll see them writing their answer in there. And they'll say, like, oh, number 2 doesn't have it right, number 3 doesn't have it right, and number 1 has it. You know, and they'll go from there. And
so Alex here, I know he's winning or not.
Oh yeah, because they'll relay it to him. I mean, yeah, he has to head.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, you got to. I mean, just like if you watch NFL, the NFL on Fox or some other pregame show, they got the mic in their ear, so they're telling them, okay, you got 30 seconds left, time to go to commercial. Yes, like the referee in pro wrestling, hey, time to go home, folks.
Time to go home, folks.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. I mean, and it's funny just watching some of these game shows, and I'm just sitting back and watching a lot of these game shows. I'm watching some of these Jeopardies. I feel like the Jeopardies may have been harder maybe 10, 15 more years ago than they are now, but
I think now Jeopardy's a little more, it's getting a little more easier. I'm not saying easier, it's still tough. But back then, man, them questions, I wouldn't even know any of them questions back then.
And I look at it, maybe I would have thought it was harder then, but some of those I probably would have gotten at my age now. If I were on Jeopardy in like 1985, 86, I probably could have did well. You know, instead of getting a trip or a box of rice and roni as a parting gift.
Or from Dave Chappelle's I Know Black People, menthol cigarettes and the Murray Harris dressing. Pomade.
Oh, I was going to say, when you said Murray's, I was thinking, you talking about those Murray's frozen foods? Murray's frozen food. People slept on those. Those are really good food.
They were. They came in the black box, right?
With the orange letters, Murray's. Sometimes you get the meatballs, the chicken patties.
Murray, yeah.
the burgers, the riblets. Yeah, they don't have it. The places. I was one of the saddest days was when they closed down the Murray's in Salisbury, Maryland, and put the Brilliant Jiu-Jitsu studio there. And yeah, it was very disappointing. Cause man, where else are you gonna get those good frozen meats? They're better than half of the stuff you would get at a discount store like Save-A-Lot.
You can't find that anywhere now.
One time in Princess Anne, Price Cutters in Princess Anne near the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, they would sell a lot of the Murray's food. I mean, they'd sell everything there, but I mean, that was probably a store that catered to the broke student, the broke college student. But definitely.
The stores in these college towns are now taking their gall cards. Like, hey, you know.
I'm glad they started taking a hall card too, because Yeah, most people who go to Salisbury University have no reason to go to Princess Anne at all unless they actually live there.
Yeah, and if you migrate from Princess Anne or UMES to come to Salisbury, most of those stores on that strip cater to the Hall card and the Gall card now. So they're finding ways to reach students and finding ways to exploit them more. Hey, take more money out your pocket, even though they got this money on here.
Like I said, everybody thinks all these businesses do things for the sake of stuff. No, if you can make money off of it, it helps.
Why not? Why not exploit the hell out of people? That's the business
if people are dumb enough to buy stuff, they'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And people will. That's people will. Like for instance, like I say, I'm a big Apple fan. I love Apple. I even sat there and watched the Apple event this past on September 12th. And as I was looking at it, and I like to say, and prior to it, I was reading people's comments and stuff because this one gentleman I follow on YouTube, Techie Agent, he does a lot of stuff about technology, and his thing is about healthy fitness. So he was talking about the new Apple Watch and how speculation what this has, what it has, and everything else and stuff. And after looking at the Apple Watch Series 4, I was like, all right, cool. I said, didn't make me budge when to change my mind just for me to not keep my Apple Watch 3 because one, it still doesn't have it doesn't track your sleep automatically. But they had a whole bunch of other features and stuff that some people will love and some people will hate and everything else and stuff. And the same thing with the phones. They announced 3 new iPhones: iPhone XS, iPhone X Max, iPhone R. Like I said, I got an iPhone 6 Plus S, and it still does what it needs to do for me and everything else and stuff. But guess what? They are exploiting the hell out of people because people just got the last iPhone X, which cost $1,000 last year, and they're coming to get the new XS or X Max, or people are taking out equity loans from their homes just to get their new phone, which is crazy. I don't get. I'm just saying, these companies know what they're doing. They're exploiting the hell out of people.
Great Simpsons reference. The episode where Lisa was getting fed up with the Malibu Stacy dolls because it seemed you'd pull the string and they would say a lot of old, outdated, misogynistic things like, I can't make, something about dinner not being ready. I need to make sure dinner's ready or my husband is happy and all this stuff. And so they come out with one, her and Smithers come out with a doll, that's modern and has this look, and that's counter to Malibu Stacy. But then Malibu Stacy creators come out with the same version of Malibu Stacy with a bow in its hair. It's like, why are you guys buying this new Malibu Stacy doll? Because it's got a bow. Yeah, it's the same doll with a bow.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not taking anything from Apple because Apple was the first company to hit $1 trillion, and followed by Amazon, which hit $1 trillion. So I'm not taking anything from pay people in marketing to do this and then see what people want, what they crave. Guess what? They could have done this. They could have had an iPhone 6s Plus, named it something different, kept the same stuff in there, and guess what? Boom, we have a new iPhone 10, just like that, and people still buy it. Because it's the newest iPhone, that's why.
And it probably has a better battery. That's the only difference between the iPhone X and the iPhone 6, probably a better battery.
Yeah, that too. I mean, the same thing with Samsung and stuff. Samsung come out with devices. The only way Samsung, and I see how their strategy is, the only way they can exploit Apple fans or Apple people to come over to them is to talk about Apple and how crappy their products is and everything else. That's how you get, cool, guess what? You want this? Guess what? We've been had this for the last 4 years and everything else and stuff. So that's how Samsung gets their profits. You just can't do a commercial on their own.
Yeah, like the Samsung commercial, I think, where you see the people taking the photo of the iPhone and their data's out, or their space is run out, where they're using the Queen song "Don't Stop Me Now," and which is ingenious. It's a good idea. Sometimes you got to exploit your competition's flaws. I mean,
exactly.
All Apple has to do is show something, show a Samsung tablet on fire, even though they probably fix those issues, and it's.
That's to the same thing. If Apple wanted to be crude to, if they wanted to be so nasty to Samsung, they could have been just like this. Oh, the next big thing, just blew up in your car. Boom. Guess what? Now your car is on. In a commercial, just like that.
Fear tactics. That's all you got to do. I mean,
that's all you have.
You never had, they had Firestone tires and all those times. You never saw like Goodyear talk about Firestone tires catching on fire or blowing up and things like that. You never saw that.
Yeah, even to this day, Microsoft will not ever, dare ever say anything bad about Sony if it comes to video. I don't ever think they will say anything stupid about that, because Microsoft knows better. Microsoft knows that Sony outsells their systems 3-1 or 2-1 now. Like I say, a lot of people doing the talking are fanboys. The fanboys are doing the talking.
And that they don't have a decent baseball game. And they don't have a decent third-party baseball game either. That's another issue that Microsoft has.
Exactly. And what's the baseball game is in the house for Sony anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they can do their own. There's no contract anymore. 2K Sports isn't doing, or is it Take-Two or whoever isn't doing the baseball games anymore. And which is sad, because there could have been so much potential for those 2K baseball games, but they were so glitchy and they were so awful.
Exactly.
That they were like, we're going to cut our losses and just go work on the basketball. And because people.
So what happening now is that MLB is putting their hand in the pot. Cool, let's sponsor our RBI baseball. That's what they're doing.
It's not good. It doesn't even look good.
Yeah. I mean, there was a game on the PlayStation Store called Mega Baseball, Super Mega Baseball 2. That game looked better than freaking RBI baseball.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I like their ingenuity, and I know they're trying to make it more arcade style instead of like simulation style, which is great. And that's the big gripe that a lot of MLB The Show fans were having about the most recent edition that come out. That I'm a big transaction junkie when it comes to like playing a franchise mode. There seemed like there was less franchise options just looking at the video for it. Yet it feels like people who just want to, drop in and play a game. Yeah, that's great for them. But what about the people who like doing franchise modes?
Yeah, because I enjoy franchise mode on the show 16 and 17. You gotta. It actually makes you sit there. You play the game, and after the off seasons come, you gotta make sure you gotta keep all your special players and everything.
Rule 5, guys, gotta make deals.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, as I was playing that game and doing the off-season stuff like that, I learned a lot more how the off-season works now, because you gotta, all these rules and regulations and this and that. And I was like, man, I didn't realize all that stuff. I always hear it on TV, but I never knew what it really meant. Playing that game and doing it. And
I feel like them in MLB The Show, having a primer on things you need to know about the offseason, the Rule 5 draft, the winter meetings, trade deadline, arbitration, and other stuff like that. And I think it's a great idea. I feel like they can expound on it a little more. I think with a game like that, with a franchise mode, and seeing that it's doable in Madden, I don't think relocating it. I feel like relocating a team in a game would be maybe going a little too far, especially like when you find out the issue in baseball and the NBA and together. Doing expansion teams is already tough enough as it is, because not a lot of teams are making money. But, maybe
that's true.
I think an idea of like they do with NBA. Now, NBA 2K has the great point. You can not only relocate, but you can update your brand. You can, I have NBA 2K16. And just through being connected to the internet, if you do a My GM mode or My Franchise, you can upload from they have like a database of different logos that people submit. You can put for example, like if you wanted to go back to the old San Antonio Spurs logo, you could, if you find it, which is the only problem they have with trying to find those logos. If you can find the logo that you're looking for, you can upload that and use that as your brand. That's your brand. You can change your uniforms and things like that. Yeah.
I got NBA Live. I got NBA Live 18 and playing it and just briefly going through it and stuff. It's amazing. And like I said, I play 2K 17. I know some 2K fans might kill me for this comment, but me playing NBA Live 18, I thought it was better than 2K. Honestly, I thought it was better than 2K.
Does NBA Live have like a story mode like 2K does?
So like I said, I briefly went through it. So next time I play it, I'll go through it and see what else they got. But like I'm saying, the graphic wise and the control wise is smooth. It was smoother than 2K. I was like, man, this has potential and stuff. And they're coming up with another Live 19 this year, and I'm sure they're going to fix whatever they messed up in 18 and then expand off of that. As long as Andrew Bynum's not in the middle of the court holding the ball, it should be fine.
And see, that's the biggest thing. Live used to be, think about it, all those commercials back in the 90s. Live was the preeminent game. That was the only NBA official game that you had. EA Sports had a market on that. Even had two different versions of two different versions of NBA games. They had that and NBA Showtime, which really wasn't that much different, except you couldn't do all the trading and things like that. Yep. But NBA Live.
But before EA took over that, remember Tecmo had baseball, football, and basketball as well.
Yeah, and what happens is that as everybody made the jump to the next gen systems, Tecmo did a Tecmo Bowl for PlayStation, and it did not get the greatest reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was like 96, 97, because it was the first Tecmo game to have the Ravens in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it did not get good reviews. I have to at least see a video on it. And the problem is, after playing a video game, after playing PS4 or playing the most recent next-gen system, doesn't matter if it's Xbox One or PS4, you go back and play an older system, either... I was just playing Xbox, and I was playing the original Xbox, and I was playing Tiger Woods Golf. It is such a stark contrast between what you'd see on a next gen system and then what you see on some of the older gen ones, and it's just it's so weird, and it's trying to get acclimated to that. And it's like once you get acclimated to it again, it's like all child's play. I feel like those older systems sort of prepared you for what you're playing now. If you play Nintendo, you're probably going to be a little more prepared to playing a Switch. The original Nintendo will get you prepared for the Switch or things like that.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I completely agree.
I feel like the more buttons, think about it, you had A and B on the Then you had the A, B, X, Y on Super Nintendo. You had the A, B, C on certain Sega games, and then you had the A, B, C, X, Y, Z buttons. And then you go to N64. Never played Neo Geo. Never played the
trigger B and move this analog, the D-pad, and two little yellow ones, and all that other stuff. And then PlayStation came out with its first controller. It was just a skinny controller with the D-pad, the triangle, the circle, the square,
L and R. Just one L and one R.
Yeah. There were L and R, and then start and select. That was it. Now, come PlayStation 2. There you go. Now they got
the Dual Shock. Then you got the analogs.
Dual Shock. Yeah.
And then PlayStation. And then Xbox. And then you get, I think from looking at the Xbox controllers, don't look like they've changed that much from Xbox One all the way to the original Xbox. That's one thing. Yep. The PlayStation, get a little wider, and then I
must admit, as a Sony fanboy, as a Sony game player, I adore the Xbox controller. I love the Xbox controller. It just feels right in your hand. The Sony controller is okay in the hand, but I love the Xbox controller. Other than that, that's the only time you ever hear me saying the word love and Xbox in the same sentence, because anything Xbox I do not like. separate controller.
And I think that might be an issue more content-wise of games, too. You might be limited with certain things that you can only get on PlayStation. But like I said, I'm more of a sports video game fan, and the 2K games were just so atrocious, I couldn't play them anymore. They were even going back to PlayStation 2 and some of those World Series 2K ones that Sega made, partnering with 2K. They were not good. The football games were good.
Yeah, the football games were good.
And I feel like the NFL dropped the ball giving EA the exclusive rights to the NFL because it doesn't make sense.
And they give them a shot. I mean, they didn't give 2K a shot because you remember at one point in time, Madden. The game come out $50. Guess what? EA, 2K, boom, $19.
Oh,
$19 for the game. So guess what? They can sell 2 or 3 of those games, get one of them Madden games.
Yeah.
They will outsell them 2 or 3 to 1 by just doing that because they got another option football game. Remember Xbox came out and they had the Peyton Manning football?
Yeah, and then like what's that? NFL Fever. And it's the thing is, Sony and them can still do their own NFL game if they want. Because it was only excluded to third party. But if you do an in-house NFL game, I bet. I guess they already saw that. Hey, we know where our bread's buttered. We're just going to keep working on MLB The Show. The only problem is with MLB The Show, and just like with 2K basketball, people are going to complain if you don't constantly upgrade it. Look at Madden. Everybody says it's not even worth spending the money on Madden. All it is a glorified roster update. When I have a Madden, I think Madden 15, the one with Odell Beckham on it, I can just get this year's rosters by going down through their server and finding somebody who took the time and effort in to make those rosters. And that, as a person who would sit hours and hours making rosters, that's the best thing in the world. I don't have to do a single thing. Just download it and upload it and play.
And see, take this into account too. So, out of all game industry, we gamed for a long time. There's only one company that kept with it and stuck with it, and now they got a fabulous product. The creators of MLB The Show. Remember when they first started out? NFL Game Day, and then they had the MLB Baseball. It was 99 studios back then.
Yeah.
And they continue to keep at it, and then boom, they finally got a wonderful product in MLB The Show. The first one was 2011 or 2012. They actually made everything awesome when it first came on PS3.
Yeah.
So
not to cut you off, I remember you talk about 989 Studios, and their intro would be 989 Studios. Yeah. We'd have this thing where it's like 989 sucks because they were bad. There was glitches in MLB 99 where you hit a home run. You hit a home run. Yes. You'd have a home run in RBI if you're first
for one.
Season. You're not batting 1,000. You're batting 0. And you had a home run. And there's just little things that, going all the way back from MLB, Pennant Chase, to MLB 99, and then all of a sudden they got themselves together, starting in 06 with MLB The Show? I feel like, didn't it go back to 06?
What, the show?
MLB The Show, yeah.
No.
When did they start branding MLB The Show?
08, 09. Okay. Oh, no, it might have been 06. Jesus. Well, I didn't start playing it until the PS3 came out. That was the first time I started playing it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to... Yeah, and once I saw that, it really got so much better.
I knew you were going to say something about that glitch in the home run. I knew he was going to say something about the glitch.
MLB 06 The Show. That's when it started. It came out February 06.
Okay, so yeah. So I didn't know that. I started playing it when it was PS3 came out in 7 or 8 or 9. So, yeah, that's when I started playing the game. But, yeah, let's then go back to the glitch. I was like, man, as soon as I say 99 Studio, he's going to say something about the glitch. The home run glitch.
There's only a few video games that I talk about with such disdain as that glitch.
And that's one of
Dynasty Warriors. And I think everybody who's ever played Dynasty Warriors knows who I'm referring to. Basically, he would be the equivalent of One Punch Man because apparently one hit would kill you. And I'm talking about Lubu.
Yeah, let Let your fans know how much frustration you have for that guy.
Anybody who's played Dynasty Warriors, any version, knows how tough Lubu is. You try to avoid getting anywhere near Lubu as long as you can until you get to Lubu. Because Lubu basically will kill you with one hit. Think of every death scene in every video game. From Mega Man exploding once he dies, Mario, his thing. Lubu is basically a one-man wrecking machine, and yeah, he lived up to the legend that was based on him, but very flamboyantly dressed with his pike and just wipes people out like someone going to a Walmart with a scimitar. Anyone who plays Cards Against Humanity gets that. Maybe it's not Walmart, but running through a pile of people with a scimitar. Yeah, Lubu is a very frustrating character. Normally, it would be F Lubu. Everyone knows that. And I defy anyone who's played Dynasty Warriors, and you can comment and message me or whatever. You can email the show at thesportsrefuge.com, sportsrefuge@gmail.com, or comment on the blog post or with the episode. Tell me that there isn't anyone in that Dynasty Warrior series that is, tougher than Lubu. Tell me that. And the only reason, I bet if you can get past Lubu, and there were times when you play with a party of people, you inflict enough damage on Lubu, you start doing inflicting damage, and then all of a sudden he goes into the, even levels beyond Super Shredder bad.
I mean, all right, so, speaking of game-wise, I have heard from many people, not the Dynasty Warriors, but there's a game that's so hard that gamers who game get tired and frustrated and stop playing it. Dark Souls 3. I'm sorry, the whole Dark Souls franchise. And it's like, man, yeah, that game is so hard, man. I had to quit playing it, man. That's how bad it was. And then if you beat the first one, the second one was even harder than the first one. And so on and so forth with number 3. So, there's a lot of people out there right now who is probably, after this recording and watching this podcast and stuff, they're going to hear about Logo. You might get a shitload of, sorry. Can I say shit? You might get a tons load of emails.
Like I said,
you might get a tons load of emails.
Or even two emails or comments would be enough to show that people are actually listening. But yeah, Lubu is very tough, and I feel like if you can beat him, then you probably can beat the rest of the game, because either no one's going to be tougher than him, and sometimes trying to do those campaigns, man. You're already preoccupied trying to take over these certain areas, and then you have to worry about Lubu. And then it's not even the fact that you have to go to him. Sometimes he'll come towards you. He'll chase after you.
That I did not know.
I feel like it. Again, we always try to stay away from the castle before we had no other choice to fight Lubu. But I had to sit down and play a full-fledged Dynasty Warriors.
Another Dynasty.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I feel like they could have did like I feel like you can do a Dynasty Warriors with basically any pop culture franchise. You could do a Dynasty Warriors with Power Rangers. I mean, they were doing one with Voltron or Gundam. Why not do one with like Power Rangers? Yeah, they did a Gundam one years ago. And again, I'm not really a big fan of anime, and not that I hate it. Just it doesn't intrigue me a lot. But I saw that. That's the first thing I saw. I saw Gundam. And I think I could have swore they did a Gundam one. Their Gundam one looks like Voltron. Basically, when they come together, it looks like freaking Voltron. But
it was the same thing with they did a Dragon Ball Saga game where you actually could run around and do role playing, pick up the Dragon Balls, fight people, and it's not like a video game fighting style, but actually walk around and actually do all types of different missions and everything else and stuff, which I thought was awesome. I said, all right, cool. They're abandoning the side model of game fighting and doing something different, going out their element and stuff. So,
What are your thoughts on e-gaming leagues? Do you consider that a sport?
Man. Yeah, ask me a tough question. All right, so I think e-gaming is a sport. Yeah, I think so. I think e-gaming is a sport because it deals with team. Some are solo, some are teams. Majority of the tournament is team based, I believe, right?
I believe so. I think they have teams. I don't watch the product. I have just always taken an interest that you see it being on the forefront on ESPN now a little more than it ever was, and that's a whole different thing.
Because I'll be honest with you, I game, but I don't really pay too much attention about the whole gaming tournaments and stuff. It's like all these people, like saying you get one shot, when your team gets one shot and go just fly all the way across the country and play one tournament and lose, guess what? Boom, now you have all this money and stuff. I mean, like saying gaming's all luck. I don't care what anybody say. People get 99 level, 100 level rankings, but guess what? It takes more than one time to do it. You got to continue to do it. You got to continue to work on your craft. You got to continue to constantly keep spending money. You got to continue your life out just to get there. You know what I mean? Just to get to that like ranking and everything else and stuff. E-gaming, I think e-gaming is more of a sport than freaking poker. The world thing of poker, world classic of poker and stuff. I think that is.
And also, let's put it like this: if spelling bees are on ESPN.
Okay.
Why isn't there trivia? Like, for example, there was a point where Dan Patrick was trying to get Sports Jeopardy on ESPN.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, which is very interesting because, so Keith Olbermann's on Pardon the Interruption right now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he fills in sometimes for, I think, Kornheiser or Wilbon, one of the two. And very interesting enough, there was talk at a point like last year or earlier this year that once they were trying to end the six with Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, but that they're talking about this rumor, Dan Patrick, they're trying to get Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann back to do the 6 o'clock Sports Center, and it's very interesting. It's like, that's not true. Interestingly enough, what do you know? Keith Olbermann's back at ESPN. And there was always rumor that Dan Patrick was talking about going back to ESPN. He had talked about how he wanted to put Sports Jeopardy on ESPN, and he wanted to have ESPN sort of take more of a role in his broadcasting school down in Florida. But there was never any talk about him being back on ESPN radio or on TV in general. Yeah. But it is very interesting. I know that was a weird jump to it, but how they were talking about getting those two, yet Oberman's there and Dan Patrick's not. And they were trying. They were trying at one point. If Olbermann all of a sudden got a job and doing Pardon the Interruption.
It's like trying to get Rich Eisen and come back.
No, he ain't coming back.
Look, Rich Eisen is sitting pretty as an NFL network. He had nothing else to do.
He has his radio show. He gets to, like I said, he's not going to be the face of, he wouldn't end up being the face of NFL, NFL Sunday or NFL.
It's like them asking Ernie Hudson to leave. It's
Ernie Johnson. I was going to say, I thought you were going to go Ghostbusters reference too. But, hey,
I'm sorry. Let's get to Ernie Hudson. Speaking of Ernie Hudson, have you seen that picture of him holding that car for the auto?
For the what do you say?
It's like an auto repair thing or whatever, and it has a picture of Ernie Hudson. I was like, did he just put a picture of him in a car in the background or something like that? If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you later, and you'll be like, what the hell is this? But yeah, like Ernie Johnson is not going to leave TNT to go to ESPN.
No, he's been working for Turner for years, and he's from Atlanta. Why would you want to leave a cushy job in the city where you grew up? Why?
But he got an ESPY though, I think, right? Can he get an ESPY? Or
he might got a Sports Emmy.
I'll play a Sports Emmy. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, very interesting. In a previous episode, I talked with Scott Abraham, formerly of WBOC and works at WJLA in Washington, talking about the process of the Sports Emmy, where you can do it for different, I guess maybe it's a Sports Emmy, but Emmys in general, because there's different regions you can do it, and he's in a region where you can apply for different things, different features, things like that, anchors, and Again, that's another thing for people who are listening to the show the first time. You can look back on that. That's episode 10. I'm trying to shamelessly shill previous episodes. I feel like I'm Mick Foley with the cheap pop on. I'm here at beautiful Salisbury, Maryland. Yeah. But yeah, and then like I said, that's a very interesting process. I mean, like I said, if you're Ernie Johnson, why leave? It's a cushy job. You don't have to do that much. You work on your own time. He's only on really for like 6 months out of the year, and maybe he'll do some baseball playoff games.
If I get paid a lucrative amount of money.
Oh, he probably gets Time Warner. Time Warner's got that money, and Time Warner.
You mean AT&T's gonna have that money?
Oh yeah.
AT&T just bought Time Warner.
Yeah.
But AT&T owns CNN as well. So yeah. I'm guessing CNN is gonna have more liberal stuff on there, taking a shot at the Trump towers.
Oh, they on HBO too. So, but John Oliver talks crap about AT&T all the time. Talk about their crappy phone service and.
You know what? Like I said, I ain't gonna disagree with them because when they were singular, AT&T was singular first. Fantastic service, roll over minutes. Now AT&T is just like Verizon and Sprint and T-Mobile.
When it comes to Sprint, I'll take a Tony Schiavone line from the night Hulk Hogan turned heel. Sprint, you can go to hell. Actually, let me say this: for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, for Bobby the Brain Heenan, I'm Tony Schiavone, and Sprint, you can go to hell, straight to hell. I have no love for Sprint whatsoever.
Yeah,
they can
I have
die,
no love for
they can sink in a grave of their own. I can't think of a word right now. But yeah, they can just go straight to hell as far as I'm concerned. But as a person who's been on AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, and who wouldn't dare go anywhere near T-Mobile, I'm just
AT&T.
I'm not a fan of Sprint whatsoever.
I'm talking AT&T because Verizon's too expensive. Sprint, we already know their service is shitty. T-Mobile, they're finally coming out of the depths of the cell phone thing, cell phone wars. So they're still sitting number 4 by Sprint's 3, Verizon, AT&T 1 and 2. So, I'd rather have the lesser of two evils for AT&T. At least I get rollover minutes. So that's the only beauty about it.
And while we've had a discussion that just sort of goes everywhere, the biggest thing is we are peppering sports in, so at least I can say it is a sports episode. And I mean, yeah. Now, talking about, it's one of the biggest things as a former reporter, the biggest thing I hate using, and it's where you hear reporters say, talk about this, talk about that. No, you don't, you ask a question. You don't say, talk about this. That's a lazy way of asking someone a question.
Yeah.
And I try to digress from that because I feel like the more and more I'm out of being a journalist or reporter, I fall into those lazy, cliched habits that they do. So I'll go this way. You are a fan of a lot of different teams that, honestly, from someone that lives in Maryland, I would not have expected. You are a fan of the San Antonio Spurs. You are a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, and you are a fan of the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, and this year I'm a fan of the Boston Redskins too.
Why?
I'm
Alex Smith, I guess.
Alex Smith, yeah.
But yeah, how did you become a fan of those three teams? None of them are even east of the Mississippi.
Someone asked me that question at work, and I simply put it to them as this. I was like, when we were growing up, Maryland didn't have a football team. So it's either Washington Redskins or whoever else. So I decided, hey, start watching the 49ers when I could, and, there it was. I'm a San Francisco 49ers team. It's quite simple. I started watching them, just like Seattle. I've seen highlights of Ken Griffey Jr. and the magic they had going on there. So that's how I became a Seattle Mariners fan. because of Ken Griffey Jr. and what they did with their team. And then since then, I'm still a Seattle Mariners fan. No bandwagon fan at all. I ain't jumping on the bandwagon like everybody else is doing. I'm a Seattle Mariners fan. We traditionally do our Seattle Mariners game dating back to when Mom took us to our first game together. San Antonio Spurs team. I must say I was a Bulls fan at first because of Jordan. After Jordan left, I was a Knicks fan. After a couple of years being a Knicks fan, I started being a Spurs fan when David Robinson and Tim Duncan were there. And there it is. And my most recent team, the Iowa Hawkeyes. And someone asked me this question too. They asked me this question, like, how are you an Iowa Hawkeyes fan? I said, this is quite simple. I was watching college football one Saturday, and I seen the Hawkeyes play. I can't remember who they played, but I seen them play. I was like, oh, this is my team. Boom. And ever since I watched them on that day on ESPN, they were playing like every other Saturday on ESPN. So I got more and more exposure to watch them play and everything else and stuff. So that's how I became a sports fan of them. And the Washington Redskins fan this year, I told people at work, I said, listen, I'm on the Redskins bandwagon this year. I said, Alex Smith is going to prove you better than Kirk Cousins. Even though he's not going to have the contract as Kirk Cousins. I am saying that the Redskins will make the playoff this year, and they may or may not win their first game, but they're going to make a playoff with a lower price version of Kirk Cousins and stuff. Like saying Minnesota, he's in Minnesota right now, but guess what? That defense can only hide so many flaws of yours, and until you get tested in the big game and whatnot. So
And as a Redskins fan, I've seen times where the Redskins are maybe within a touchdown, and then Kirk Cousins would throw an inopportune interception or hold on to the ball long. And I was in on when the whole RG3 versus Kirk Cousins thing began. I felt like the coaches weren't giving RG3 a fair shake after the injury. And again, watching that playoff game against Seattle from about 5, 6, 7 years ago, everybody should have been fired after that game, because not only did you blow a 2-touchdown lead, 2, you put your most valuable player in the game knowing he was hurt. Sometimes you have to save players from themselves. As a good coach would save a player from themselves and look at the long term instead of the short term. Secondly, like I said, I go back to blowing that 2-touchdown lead. I look at Kyle Shanahan, Niners coach Kyle Shanahan now. The same guy who was the offensive coordinator when the Falcons were up 28-3.
Took the gas pedal off. I don't understand why they did that.
I'm not sold on his offensive play calling because, honestly, he's never been a big run guy. He never has been.
Yeah. The
passing game works, but the run game is very suspect, and we saw what happened. If you can't run the ball, you allow a team more opportunities to get back in the game, more possessions. Your defense was already gassed, and his inability...
One-dimensional.
Yeah, and, there's a whole bunch of things I want to go off on a rant on. Like, for example, Matt Ryan's overrated. Matt Ryan is the most overrated quarterback. I'm not a fan.
Too much money, too. Him and Matt Stafford got getting paid too much money to do what? Lead your team. Well, Matt Stafford had led team play off in what? Freaking 2, 3, 4 years. But
that's still more than that was like the first playoff appearance for the Lions since I think Barry Sanders was there. So that's still. He gets some leeway. But you still have one of the best weapons, and you can't find a way to get it to the best weapon that you had. Exactly. And then now, all of a sudden, now you don't have the security blanket anymore. You seem like you're a better quarterback.
Like I told you. Kirk Cousins, they signed Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is good. I ain't gonna lie, Kirk Cousins is
he's good.
But that defense can only hide so many flaws that you have. Like I said, Drew Brees. We knew Drew Brees was great. But guess what? The defense.
That first game, that defense got shredded. That by Ryan Fitzpatrick of all people.
Yeah, exactly. We can go down the line of players like Peyton Manning. The only reason why Peyton Manning was so good is that he can outscore another team. That is the only reason why he was so damn good.
And if you look at, apparently, and I'll say this, look at the Indianapolis Colts. Apparently the Colts failed to learn from history because they didn't learn what happened last year with no Andrew Luck. They didn't learn the year that Peyton Manning was out the whole year with the neck issue. They learned nothing from that. You can't build a team all around a quarterback. You have to have a balanced team, because if your quarterback goes down and he is the main player, you're screwed. The Patriots learned that. Even with Matt Castle in place of Tom Brady, they still won 10 games and 11 games and missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
but that's not their fault. That's just sort of bad luck. I mean, and because had it been any other year, they probably win the East very easily and make the playoffs.
That's true, and I agree. I agree with you on that.
Like I said, the Colts are, I feel like the way they build their front office and build a team, they've been through a bunch of coaches, 2 quarterbacks over like the past, let's be honest, the past 10 years, a number of coaches, a number of GMs. And
only one team got it right. One team got it right. One team got it right and got a backup. Okay, 2 teams. I'm going to say 2 teams got it right with a backup. And that's the Green Bay Packers. Brett Favre, transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And then from Pittsburgh Steelers, it was Tommy Maddox, or whoever the hell it was. Tommy Maddox, Cordell Stewart, and he went to Ben Roethlisberger.
I actually say this. The Oilers/Titans had it right, too. They let McNair sit for a couple of years, not get the wear and tear. They let, was it Chris Chandler? I'm not sure who it was starting. But, yeah, they let Steve McNair sit a lot, and then then they threw him into the fire, and then he was ready, and it helped with his career. Yeah, the only problem was the wear and tear eventually caught up with him, especially as a quarterback. And when you think about the old Steve McNair stuff, that's a really sad story. But let's not talk about the sad stuff. Just talk about the on the field stuff at the moment, because there's too many sad stories in sports. That is because a lot of people make bad decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with that. I can roll with that. Yeah, that's agreeable. That is very, very agreeable and stuff. And the most hated person in sports to this day, according to Baltimore Ravens fans, is Joe Flacco.
Nah, like I said, he's still better. He's better than Trent Dilfer by a long shot.
No. He's the reason why the team is bad, because that $120 million contract. This is not me saying this. These are Ravens fans who told me this. He said the reason why the team's so bad is because Joe Flacco and the $120 million contract. That's why. Because we can't sign the players.
Well, hey, if you're going to get your money, the reason that the Ravens should have had more Super Bowls than they had, they gave Elvis Gerbach all this money, and he crapped the bed, and he wasn't as good as advertised, and then you had to purge the whole roster because you couldn't afford anybody anymore. So it happens, and the NFL is going to happen. That's why the Khalil Mack thing is with Chicago, except it sort of works because you have the money, you can afford to pay Khalil Mack while you have a young quarterback who's under a rookie deal. Yeah, that won't work in 3 years, where you have to purge the roster and basically clear things out. Like, for example, the Rams got maybe 2 more good years before you have to start worrying about Jared Goff and having to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, those are owners and GMs and whoever else, they've been doing this for a while, so they know exactly what you're doing. So, but like I said, when it comes time to pay him after his contract is over, what are you going to do? Then the same thing with Russell Wilson. When his contract expired, were they going to pay him this lucrative money, or were they going to have him pursue elsewhere and stuff? He still had a career in baseball if he wanted to play.
Yeah, he wasn't that good of an infielder. But actually, I'm glad you said that. In this age of athletes being so good, seeming like having these physical abilities, you don't see people do 2 sports anymore. 2 sports at the same time. Is it because the investment? Is it because that they've been so used to specializing in one sport for a long time?
Man, it's wear and tear, man. Name me one successful person besides Bo Jackson.
Dion.
You think Dion was great in baseball?
Yeah, he wasn't a home run hitter, but man stole like 50 bases a couple times.
Like last time I seen him, a ball hit him in his head, he went over the fence. I swear to God, it was Dion.
You know what? I would not be surprised. Dion Sanders. Okay, Dion Sanders did not steal 50 bases. Actually, yes, he did. He stole 56 bases as a 29-year-old with Cincinnati in 1997. 273, 329 on base percentage. Dion Sanders' best year statistically was 1994, where he hit 283, 342 on base percentage. Never had over 10 home runs in a season, but his best statistical year, I take that back, was 1992. He only played 97
like games. Numbers.
What's that?
Like D. Gordon numbers.
Okay, yeah, but listen to this. 304, batting average, 346 on base, 14 triples, 6 doubles, 92 hits, 28 RBI, 26 stolen bases, not caught stealing only 9 times, 8 homers. That's his best statistical season. And think about it, he probably left halfway through the year that the Braves went to the World Series to play football with the Falcons.
Yeah.
That is the only thing. You can't do that. I feel like you have to play 2 sports where they don't intertwine.
With baseball and every sport intertwined.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that.
You have to play
basketball.
basketball.
It's gonna be hockey, basketball and hockey. Basketball, hockey, football, baseball, football, or vice versa. Football is gonna be basketball as well.
But here's the thing: you have to play NBA and then play baseball and play for a crappy NBA team or a crappy baseball team in order to play both sports and not have that much of a schedule conflict. And again, now exactly. The money is too big where you can't risk that anymore.
No, you can't risk it anymore. Yeah, that's how it is.
I mean, those days of 2 sport athletes, they're done.
They're done.
It'd be nice to see it, but it won't happen.
They're done. They're not going to see it ever. They'll never see it ever again.
Yeah, you may get drafted in 2 sports. Like Dave Winfield was drafted in 3 or 4 sports.
Well, think about it too. Athletes back then were stronger than athletes now, because an athlete now can sneeze and his ribs broke and guess what, out for a month or so. Athletes back then, man, they took it on the chin. They took it on the chin and coming out the next night ready to play some ball. You know what I mean? It's just like society, you know. Society back then was a lot tougher than what it is now. Point blank. Society's tougher than what it is now. I mean, tougher back then than what it is now. Sports players and sports were tougher then than what it is now. You know, it was about football. Man, I was used to quarterbacks throwing the ball across the middle, wide receivers catching it and getting their ass knocked off. Now you do that, that's a penalty. That's a penalty. Guess what? That's part of the game. You want someone to slow down to try to hit you? Come on, man. That's going to cause more injury than what he's going to do. You know? So that's how I feel about that, man.
I was going back to, I mentioned Dave Winfield. I could have swore James Brown on the NFL and CBS was drafted by a couple of sports teams, but so Dave Winfield was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks of the NBA, the Utah Stars of the ABA. He was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, and he was drafted by the San Diego Padres.
He only played 1 sport.
Yeah, and he only played baseball.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's too much. That's too much wear and tear on your body. You're playing 16 regular season games in football, and they all play 162 games in baseball, and then you got to play playoffs after that, too. Man, you play almost 190 games of baseball. I mean, you're playing almost 200 games a year. And when are you going to have a chance to rest, relax, have your body recover, and do it again? That's why Bo Jackson couldn't do it the way he was doing at that rate.
Well,
I understand.
I was reading that the hip injury was a fluke because had they, and again, almost 25 years ago, no one knew the severity of the injury. If they had treated it right away, he would have been fine.
But we all seen that show, The Playmakers, on ESPN. That's why I'm going to tell. Playmaker exposed the hell out of NFL, out of football in general. Exposed the shit out of them. I don't care anybody say that. I love that show. I love that series. It dealt with gay players. It dealt with players having domestic issues, users, and everything else and stuff. I love Playmakers, man. And someone asked me what my favorite sport movie was. I told him, I said, by far, the best sports movie, in my opinion, to me. I like Rudy. Rudy is for the happy-go-lucky people. Like, hey, he's short. Get a chance to play football for one of the most prestigious colleges in the world. My favorite sports movie of all time is The Program. And I ask people, have you seen The Program? Like, no, I never seen it. I never knew a movie called The Program.
It's been years. That's with James Caan, right? James Caan.
I mean, we watched
the one where they lie down on the road when one guy lies down in the middle of the road while the cars are coming and all that.
Yeah, yep.
It's been years since I've seen that movie, but
man, The Program, and my old high school football coach, Griffin, he played that movie for us one day before we had a couple hours before we had to play our game Friday, and he put the movie on for us and stuff. That's by far one of the best sports movies I like because it's real shit. It's fake. movies like all these other football movies and stuff. Like I like Any Given Sunday. That's kind of lines kind of towards the program, but the program is real life shit. And let people know what's going on, how things are going on really college, and how these players are getting exposed to all these sponsors, are getting paid underpaid money, and all these problems in one thing, trying to run the team and everything else and stuff. So that's my favorite sports movie. That's where people are like, oh, that's not the best sports movie in the world. Maybe not for them, or maybe never seen it before. It may change their mind. So
And I think, of course, with that movie being in the 90s, things may have changed. And it's dumb because the NCAA, you've heard about the issue at the University of Maryland with the football player dying.
Yeah.
The NCAA, remember, people don't know, the NCAA was created to prevent people from dying during football games because there were times where, like, I think one guy broke his neck and died. And you see how dangerous the wedge is when it comes to kickoff returns and things like that. But the NCAA is a joke, in all honesty, because the key was to keep players safe. They can't do that now. Kids die all the time. Yes, like I said, in the state of Maryland, in college football, that's probably happened at least 4 times. There's one that happened in Morgan. There's one that happened in Maryland. There's one that people ever talk about that happened in Frostburg a couple of years ago. That wasn't even that long ago. The Frostburg incident happened a couple of years ago. And those things happen, unfortunately. And I feel like, and I'm not going to say it's all football, people need to know in a situation like that. I know football has this whole bravado of warriors and gladiators, which has basically been sort of an environment now where there's actual real wars and real battles going on. Everybody's been trying to de-emphasize the use of warriors and gladiators and things like that. But football is this game that's become nobilized, especially because of its old territorial, might makes right type theory. And again, nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. Think about it. If you have to listen to a lot of the NFL film soundtracks, listen to it. It sounds like something you'd hear maybe during the World War I, World War II, the flutes and the trumpets and things like that. And
loved it. I love the classic film.
And the thing is, there's a big issue, and I don't think it's an issue of being tough and not being tough enough and everybody being soft. That right there is just lie and just making people feel like, it's being smart.
It's being smart, and I think from my personal experience playing football is that if you have a coaching staff that gives a fuck about you, that's the difference between you being unhealthy and you being healthy and stuff. Because you know what I'm saying? When I played football for Snow Hill, Coach Stan Griffin, he understands you're an athlete, but you were a student first. And he made that decision. He would take his best player. If your grades went up to par, he will bench you. He would rather take a loss and then sit here to have a star player not do well in the classroom. He made sure, I want scholars and I want athletes. That's how he did it on our football team. He did it with his son, too. I don't know if you follow or not, but his son, Shay, is a 3-sports player, and he got a full-ride scholarship to Fairleigh Dickinson University and stuff. Because, that's how he did us when playing football. You're going to do scholars and be an athlete at the same time. Like I'm saying, nowadays coaches in high school and coaches in college and everything else, so on and so forth, all they worry about is making the big next star, and that's it. They're not really giving a damn about the player. Just, hey, you know what, you're going to push, and that's it. That's all you're going to do. You know what I mean? They don't care. They don't care. You know what I mean? I think they don't care, but that's my opinion. You know what I mean?
And I will say this, actually, and it's funny. There was a team, and I think it was Wycomico High School. Their coach at one time would make it a priority. You have to have a 3.0 in order to play, so that way make sure you're doing your work, you're doing the homework and things like that. But he also made it a priority of your sole focus is football only. No basketball, no baseball, nothing else, which I think is a detriment there because you have some of the better athletes are the ones who play multiple sports.
Yeah, that's true. But as earlier in your interview with Duran, as Duran discussed, when he played his first time playing football, he was a baseball star. He did get hurt.
Oh yeah, we know plenty of people who played football and got hurt, and that hampered their ability to play.
Myself included. I had 2 injuries. One, when I dislocated, snapped my ankle for football, and 2 in baseball, which pretty much sidelined me for the rest of my career playing baseball when I had a foul ball hit off the bat and bust me in my face. And from that moment on, I didn't play baseball anymore for Snow Hill. It was my senior year, but I didn't play any more baseball that year. And yeah, I went ahead. I should have done it the right way, but I went ahead and quit. You know what I mean? And that was the wrong thing I should have done.
Was it the concussion that made you decide to quit, or just not the was it a lack of playing time? What was it that sort of made you decide to quit?
It was a lack of playing time, for one. And for two, it was the fact that, you know, now I was playing ball, I was starting and everything else, and then I came to glorify scorebook keeper. And there was other players on the benches who could have done that, though. So, yeah, it's just how I should have took it. I should have did it the right way. I should have finished out the season. Maybe I had a chance of playing again, but you know, I was just frustrated. Not only did I get an injury, now I have to sit here and do the book. Now I'm treated like I'm not a player. I'm just now part of the coaching staff. You know what I mean? Like saying they have people who do the book. Why would you want your players to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've done the book before, and that's one thing. Sometimes you feel like you're not a part of the team, where you get classified as part of the team when you are just a scorekeeper.
Dude, I love doing the book now for softball. Guess what? Because I'm still able to play, and I'm still part of the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, it was selfish on my part by me quitting and like, oh, you know, I'm not getting time to play and stuff. But, you know, I was a kid. I was a teenager. I learned from that. I'm better than what I am now. You know, I'm better now than what I was back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I played JV football. I quit halfway through. I only reason I went back on because I wanted to make sure I get the pictures. Well, Mom wanted to make sure I got the pictures that she paid for, so that's the main reason I only went back.
I'm gonna get my money's worth, like Mom said.
Yeah. And I feel like now, the parent, if you have a kid that plays a sport, I have no issue if you don't want to play it again after the season, but you're going to finish out the season.
Oh yeah, and from that moment, from when I quit playing baseball because I was so frustrated, that moment on, when I said to myself, when I have kids and even now, I'm not gonna quit in the middle of something. If I don't like it, I'm gonna do it, and after that, I'm not gonna do it no more. I'm gonna pass it along to our kids, like, hey, you're gonna play this sport. You don't have to like it, but you know, you never know. Give it a chance. You might enjoy it. If you don't like it after this season, you don't have to play it again. I'm not going to force them. I'm going to force them to play it that year, but they ain't sure they're going to make them quit. You're not going to quit. There won't be quitters. There's not going to be quitters in this family. I did it one time before. I felt bad about it. I damn sure nobody else is going to do it ever again.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, and then you have these issues with parents interjecting themselves into youth sports, especially when they are not coaching. They always want to run their mouth, but not want to coach or officiate or things like that. And I've seen that all the time.
Yeah.
I saw it as a player, and I saw it as a reporter. You see parents love to interject themselves into things. They love living through their kids' past glory. They love running their mouth, but wouldn't back it up by putting the effort in to come out and help be a coach.
Exactly. And see, and we have a discussion at work, man. We have all these types of discussions at work, basically about life. And in the sports situation came up about kids. Recently, I remember playing ball. If your team was the first, second, or third, you got no trophy. You got a participation paper. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing. Now, parents are so soft. My kid deserves a participation trophy. So the same trophy that your kid gets for just playing the sport, and the players on the teams that are first, second, third place get the same trophy. Well, each trophy will keep decreasing in size. But if a third place team get the same trophy or a fourth place team gets, and then, you know, kids are gonna look at it like, you know, what the hell is the point? It's like, if I work hard, if I train hard, if I, you know, continue to do what I have to do to improve myself, this is what I'm going to get. I'm going to be just like everybody else. Just people get this mentality now. It's like, you know, that's why people are so snooty now. It's like, I have to be number one, because if not, then I'm like, I'm on a low total pole like everybody else. I don't want to be like everybody else.
And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you put the work in. Don't expect it to be given to you. Exactly. You have to put the work in to be number one. I don't think LeBron James comes out on the court and says, I'm going to be number one. Give me all these accolades. He earns the accolades. People may not like him, but the man works. The man puts the work in. People may not like Kobe Bryant. The man put the work in. People may not like Michael Jordan. And so on. The best people put in the work.
Yep.
You can't skate on just skills alone.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, when it comes to sports and stuff, a team should not be giving you anything. You work hard, and then, your hard work's going to pay off. And just like, oh, well, I did this, and I participated, so I deserve a trophy and stuff. I mean, that's how teams are. That's how parents are now, and how local Little League teams are, too. It's these little cliques they have. Like, there can be a player that's way better than another player on another team. Guess what? That other kid's going to make the All-Star just because his dad's friend is the coach of the team. That's why. But the other kid gets looked over because he's not in the clique and stuff.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with somebody who was making an issue over travel teams as opposed to Little League teams. Travel teams are for the rich. Let's be honest. Travel teams are for the rich.
Yeah.
Little League, Senior League, Junior League teams, the ones that play together, those are the ones where, not everybody has the money, but, they're going to play. I feel like sometimes some sports are starting to get specialized where all of a sudden it's how much money you have as opposed to how good you are.
I'm so glad you said that. I am so glad you said that because we had a discussion at work about that too. I said the same thing. I said double team ball, AAU, is all about money. Who has the most money to produce, to exploit these kids to all these other opportunities? Granted, your kid can suck, but guess what? He's on a travel ball team. That's something to brag about. I said there's kids who play rec ball, Little League ball during the spring, and they train in off season and stuff. Just because they're less fortunate than you are doesn't mean you're better than them. And those kids end up turning out being better people, better athletes in society and stuff. Where the other kids are being exploited. Oh, I'm on this team and everything else.
To me, high school basketball, high school sports should be no determining factor than as opposed to travel ball and AAU. Everybody plays. You're going to see the elites will play against the poorer schools, and sometimes the poorer schools will knock the block off the big money schools just because you know what? They have less resources, but they work just as hard, probably work even harder than some of those other places. Yeah, you can have the money. It may give you better facilities. Sometimes it doesn't give you the heart.
Yep, that's true. You have a $1 million facility. And you paying all this money for these nice-looking uniforms and this and that, your team still sucks.
And I just go back to this. And sometimes it could be other situations. I'll go back to the time that Snow Hill went undefeated a couple years ago in boys basketball.
Yeah, I was there. We were there, right, when they won the championship,
yeah,
right?
And they played a team, Surrattsville. And the problem is there's been this debate, well, if you don't have a 500 record, you shouldn't get into the playoffs. The problem is this. Surrattsville, a 1A team, played at 3As, 4As, and played the toughest 3A and 4A schools in their region.
Yeah.
But that prepared them because as soon as they got in the 1A tournament, they got on a hot streak and ran the table and beat some of the supposedly better teams in their region to make it to the state championship game. Even then, a team from the inner city got beat by a team from the little Eastern Shore that went undefeated, who people would question, did they really play any talent? Hey, basketball is basketball. Like Rasheed Wallace said, ball don't lie.
We can't help our population of school is less than other schools and stuff. Yes, we're in the 1A, but guess what? We keep beating everybody in the 1A, even across the bridge, the west, the south, and, we can't beat the east because we're here ourselves, but we're beating people from those different regions and stuff. They can't really say anything.
I mean, technically, you have beaten the east if you won the region, so you've beaten the best in the east. You've beaten some of the bigger teams in their east that maybe... For example, 1A team or loses to a 3A team in the regular season that they get smoked in the 3A playoffs, but the 1A team
goes on to win championship. It doesn't mean anything at all.
And that happens. And like, for example, we were talking about coaches exploiting players. I feel like that more so happens in baseball, high school baseball, and other sports than in basketball or football. Because pitching, you get pitcher abuse. You see how the wear and tear, especially some of these other travel sports, the wear and tear. Maybe it happens more in college because you're just pitching them. That pitcher abuse is going to catch up with them down the road because the arm is not supposed to naturally throw that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and especially trying to throw it at high velocities, and if they're your best pitcher.
Me at the random people we play ball with like that. Daniel Cropper, he mentioned Daniel Cropper stuff. I believe they had Tommy John surgery after a certain while and then came back and played ball.
Yeah.
I believe he did.
His cousin Kanan, who was at Bennett, ended up having Tommy John surgery. The problem is with pitching is one pitch can damage your arm as opposed to someone who throws 100 innings and has no issue.
Look at my favorite pitcher, Felix Hernandez. We had a discussion before, too. I mean, he would pitch 120, 125, 130, pitch all 9 innings. And now, like this year, it's probably by far his worst season ever because I believe, and I don't know who else believes it, but it's because of the wear and tear. I mean, this man has pitched, I don't know, he's been in the league for maybe 12, 13 years. This man has pitched phenomenal his first couple of years in his life. And then now this year, it's his crappiest year pitching. ERA over 5. He has an under 500 record pitching and stuff. And just because of wear and plus also, back then he had any offense. So.
Yeah, he won a Cy Young for having like an ERA of 2 something. It only was like 13 and 14.
Had a 500 record. I think it was a 12 and 12 or 13 and 13 record, something like that. People complained about it.
Well, look at this. I was going to use an example. Mike Messina. Mike Messina had one of his worst seasons ever at 38. 11 and 10, a 5.15 ERA. You have to deal with a pitcher. Nobody's going to throw 95, 96, 97 forever. Rare. Yeah. And even Nolan Ryan, he ended up blowing his elbow out at the end of his career. But Mike Messina, having the declining velocity, ended up tinkering with his delivery, tinkering with his pitch grip. Next year, his final year, he won 20 games. And again, even though wins are a team thing, and it's all about luck, and if your bullpen holds the lead, and if you get enough run support.
Yeah. I mean, look at Bartolo Colon. He's pitching in his 40s, and he still hits about 93, 94, 95 still.
Yeah. And even though there was talk he used stem cells and this thing, which might have been illegal at one point, or they're talking he might have used steroids at one point, who knows? But
I mean, it's possible.
Like, for example, we never had discussion when it comes to stats. And I don't know where you stand on statistics when it comes to, especially baseball, because baseball, I feel like those are where the numbers are more important as opposed to basketball or football.
We did have this one discussion one time before. We were talking about Edgar Martinez not getting the Hall of Fame, but David Ortiz is going to get it because David Ortiz has 500 plus home runs, but his ERA is way below Edgar Martinez and stuff. So I don't think numbers really matter.
And a big issue is that Edgar Martinez's career started maybe a couple of years later than it should have because some people in the Mariners organization were stupid, and he lost 3 years of his career. At 24, he only played 13 games. At 25, he played 14 games. At 26, he played 65 games, and then he finally had a full-time job. And then he got hurt in 93 with the hamstring tear, and he only played 42 there, and he got robbed of a good season in his career in 94. He had 285, 387 on base, and 13 homers. Edgar Martinez is more than likely going to get in. He wasn't that far away from making it last year, and next year is his last year. So the odds are he will get that bump to get in. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
I really hope so, because if not, then, who are the sports writers to say that so-and-so can get in and so-and-so can't get in and stuff? Like I'm saying, Pete Rose deserves to be in. But guess what? What he did for his own business that's him. You know what I mean? But, you can't scrutinize a person for what he does in his own personal life and stuff. As long as it didn't affect the sports, as long as it didn't affect his team or anything else to bring negativity towards his team, then he should be fine. Granted, he bet it. You know what I mean? But
I got you. With Pete Rose, the thing is, even if you're managing, you bet on your team, that means the time you did bet on your team, you sort of betting against them.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem
unless he decided to perfect the games and stuff, then that's different. Then I would have an issue with that. Then he shouldn't be in. But
and even then, it's not talking about what he did as a manager. It's talking about him as a player. He is the all-time leader in hits. He should get in as a player, but there should be a caveat that says you cannot manage in baseball again. I have no issue with that. You can work on Fox Sports 1. I mean, because apparently they've loosened that sort of thing. Before, it's like he could not be involved in...
when he died, he'll be in the hole.
Which is unfortunate that he won't be alive to see it. But the fact is, they've loosened some of those restrictions. They let him come to a game in Cincinnati to be honored as part of the World Series team. He's working for Fox Sports 1. The thing is, he should be allowed to get in the Hall of Fame as a player. That's it. You're only on his merits as a player. There's no proof that he bet as a player. You only go on as a player and not talk about the managerial part.
Exactly.
And that's the way it should be. And then, really, baseball said he's not allowed to be in a game. The Hall of Fame followed suit and said, as long as you're on the ineligible list, you cannot be on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. And nowadays, I think they've thinned their herd with the writers, and now it's the people who haven't been to a game in a certain amount of time are dropped off that list, so now you have a smaller group. But the good thing I do like when it comes to the voting of the Hall of Fame, the voting process is more open than any other group of professional Hall of Fame writers, because now you see a lot of people. I don't know if I've shown you, there's an Excel sheet that had the list of people who voted for particular people in the Hall of Fame, and those people have their choice of making it anonymous or leaving it open. A lot of people are being more open on who they voted for, and I think that's a big thing, because like I said, there are times when you had
as it should be. If you vote for these people, these people need to know why you voted for him, why you didn't vote for him. And then the player should have, hey, why didn't you vote for him? And if that person has enough courage, they'll tell him, this is the reason why I didn't vote for you.
Yeah, and as a former reporter, seeing that other journalists like being anonymous is hypocritical because for all these years, you like putting your name to stuff and you always want people, you're always told, try not to use anonymous sources like that. You better own up to your words and your reasoning as to why you didn't vote for it. And if it's something stupid like, well, Babe Ruth didn't get in the Hall of Fame in the first vote, well, guess what? Those people are old, crusty farts who hated everything. Those writers back then, that is a bygone era. Yeah, you may have some people who learn from those people, but still, the fact is this. Nothing's going to change in their stats. It's not like they're going to magically come back and play another year and all of a sudden add more to their stats. Their stats are going to stay the same forever. Exactly. They're going to stay the same forever. They are not going to change. A Hall of Famer is a Hall of Famer. It doesn't matter first ballot or not. And now the NFL and the basketball, the way they do their Hall of Fame, it's done like people are voting for the Pope. You never know anything. All you'll see is the white smoke, and that's when you know that they picked a new Pope. You don't know who did it. You don't know who they picked. You don't know what the voting process is like. And the NFL is even worse because all of a sudden people have their own biases. There was a reason why, like Art Monk, it took forever for Art Monk to get in the Hall of Fame, and you have like Giants reporters having to be told, "Oh, why is this good?" If you're a fan of the Giants and you are a beat reporter, you've seen why Art Monk should be in a Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
there should be no reason. You shouldn't have to have anybody tell you why so-and-so should be qualified to get in the Hall of Fame.
Look, what I find out is funny? Because I got a text message from ESPN, and the headline of the upcoming people for Hall of Fame, Jeff Garcia was on that.
Oh, I mean...
Jeff Garcia. If he gets in the Hall of Fame, then I don't know what's going on.
But here's the problem: everybody becomes eligible. You see they go by the notable names. And Garcia was good. He's not Hall of Fame caliber, and everybody knows that. I think he knows he's a Hall of Fame caliber. But you come on that list, like for example, Sammy Sosa's in the Hall of Fame list, and there's so many issues with him that's so problematic. He's not getting in. But you see other names that like, oh, he was a good player at one time. Like I said, eventually, guys like Hunter Pence and all those guys, they'll be on the list.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. You don't know you want to be black or white, for one. Or you don't even know speak English or not. So.
Yeah, man. I always say, when I saw that picture of him, of Sammy Sosa, now, when I saw him, I'm thinking he's a bowler hat away from looking like Al Capone. If you ever seen a picture, look up Al Capone on...
After you said something about it, I looked it up. I was like, what the hell?
He looks like Al Capone.
Sammy.
Oh, and it makes me think all the time Harold Reynolds on MLB Network. Everybody was talking about the photo. Everybody didn't say anything. They were like, is that really Sammy Sosa? And Harold Reynolds... say what people can say what they want about Harold Reynolds and, his previous run at ESPN and things like that. But the biggest thing that he said it what everybody else was thinking. Man, Sammy, you were darker than me. What happened?
I bet he busted out laughing too, didn't he?
Well, I think it was Robert Flores as well. And I think that he tried not to laugh, but Harold Reynolds was deadly serious, and I look and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe he actually said that, but it's true.
That's what's wrong with society. They don't want the truth. Society don't want the truth.
Yeah, if it ain't true, then you sue him for slander. That's what you do. You sue him for slander or libel if it ain't true.
Well, Sammy Sosa was darker than him. Yeah. He's darker than a lot of us.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, and as we switched on the subject, we were talking about stats. And yeah, Giancarlo Stanton has a very good resume right now, but no one knows what's going to happen with the decline. The baseball player's peak is 26 to 30. Everything after that's sort of gravy. Maybe you have people who have consistent stats after that, but you never know. Like for example, at one point,
Nelson Cruz, man, he's still.
Yeah, but he's going to have that cloud hanging over him, just like Robinson Cano will have the cloud hanging over him. And that's fair, unfair, but you got yourself in that situation, just like Rafael Palmeiro. The cloud hangs over you,
But Nelson Cruz never got busted. His name was mentioned, but never got busted.
And he took it's like a legal plea. He took a plea deal. He took the suspension, but they're going to forever intertwine him, just like Chris Davis. Even though it wasn't steroids, he took Adderall when he was told he was not allowed to take it, or he did not get the therapeutic use exemption. At that point, he took it, and that's clear as day. They denied him the therapeutic use exemption, and he still took it.
See, and this is bullshit, because people give Chris Davis a pass. For some reason, I don't know why. They gave him a pass. He took Adderall. Adderall, if it's not on a list of performance-enhancing drugs, then you don't need it. Adderall is for people who, I guess, for ADHD, I guess, or whatever. But Adderall is also used for a performance-enhancing drug as well. Because I watched a documentary on Netflix about all these certain drugs that people use and stuff. And people were giving him a pass. Oh, it was the Adderall. It doesn't matter. He was still, and he knew that it was illegal. He knew he was illegal, and he took that chance.
But I mean, now he has he got a therapeutic use exemption for something that's very close to Adderall, but isn't Adderall. But he is allowed to use it. I mean, yes, he was talking about how at a point it was causing other issues in his life, and that's understandable. But if they didn't allow you to use it, and what makes it even worse,
when they were using the Adderall, he just hit on a home run.
Actually, the year he got busted for it, he was hitting like 159.
Oh, damn.
So he was awful with it, too. And then a team, as an Orioles fan, someone decided, well, this guy, apparently, who struggles, who has an up and down career, who got busted and blatantly disregarded the rules for use of a particular thing. Yes, I know it's a medical issue, and he talks about it later on how he needs it to, because his life was sort of a little bit in shambles. He was having issues off field. You give him this money. You give him this money after this. It is the dumbest move ever. Especially now, as an Orioles fan, and I think a lot of people will say, well, you could have used this money on Manny Machado. You could have used this money to get pitching. So how is it all of a sudden that, I mean, yeah, and there's a whole story behind that it was ownership that negotiated the deal as opposed to, Dan Duquette, or at least, which is a whole other story. I can go into complaining about teams and my favorite teams and things like that. And there's, like I said, just when you think the Orioles are bad, surprisingly the Redskins are becoming less dysfunctional at the moment. But,
Washington, the Redskins got something good going on right now.
Yeah, except the way the whole Cousins thing handed out, they could have traded him and got picks for him when they franchised him the first time. Yeah, they could have got picks for him.
Let me tell you this. Kirk Cousins made more money franchise tag than anybody in NFL history. Yeah. And he was gonna make even more money this year if they franchise tag him.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense because it didn't make any sense.
And we know why. And we know why he went to Minnesota. Detroit wasn't good. Minnesota is close enough to Michigan, so why not?
Yeah, and they had Stafford too, so they didn't need him.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have went to Denver, and even though people were offering his services, but offering their services for him, I assume.
And Denver got a good defense.
Yeah, too. And like I said, him being serviceable, even though sometimes you worry about the play calling, and maybe that's another issue. Sometimes play calling might have been the issue as why they didn't go as far as they have, but and if it is, it'll rear its head because Jay Gruden is calling the plays. As you saw when Sean McVay left, he was calling the plays before he went to the Rams. And people were having the same issue. Why don't you run enough? Why don't you run enough? Why do you try to run for it on first down? Why, when it's predictable? Why not, certain plays? It makes you wonder why. And then sometimes you see it's Jay Gruden who's calling the plays and not Sean McVay, or he's just McVay was following Gruden's philosophy. Look at the Rams now, and he goes a completely different direction as opposed to where he was in Washington. When you have full reins, it's a completely different story.
And plus you got Todd Gurley too.
Yeah, but they had them with Jeff Fisher, and they were awful.
Yeah.
So it's all about the coach. Speaking of Jeff Fisher, coaches who get too many chances to be a coach again. That's example. He is not.
Who's he coaching now?
Nobody. I'm just saying.
Oh.
He was not
Damn,
good
he
in
got
St.
job
Louis.
again?
Yeah, he probably got lucky in Tennessee, but there's a lot of coaches in a lot of sports where they get a second shot and they are not that good of a coach.
Let's see. Yeah, that's true. To who? Well, Nick Saban did the right thing. I want the stuff when NFL go back to NAA. John Harbaugh, he was great at Stanford.
Oh, Jim Harbaugh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Jim Harbaugh. He was great in Stanford. He did fantastic at San Francisco, but him and the owners didn't get along. Now he's at Michigan. He sucks. Michigan sucks.
Yeah, and they'll all overlook that if they beat Ohio State. That's the only thing. Like that one year, all they had to do, they lost to Michigan State when they shouldn't have on that botched punt, and then it all fell downhill after that. Because if they didn't lose to Michigan State, they probably got a national championship game. But I mean, yeah, and you have a lot of coaches who burned their bridges with management, like Davey Johnson. Davey Johnson, but he was a winner basically everywhere he went. He won the World Series with the Mets. He basically led the Reds to the playoffs, and he had an owner who was basically batshit crazy, and Marge shot, and then he got out because he was living with his fiance, but they weren't married, and she did not like that, so she used a morals cause to basically get out of the contract with him. And then he went to Baltimore, and he burned bridges with the owner. Marge Schott is a very strange person.
Yeah, it sounds like a strange person.
Oh, yeah. Read up on her. She said a lot of stuff. The reason she lost her ownership of the team, of the Reds, is because she said, Hitler did a lot of good stuff before he went nuts. I'm not paraphrasing that. That was the biggest news of that day on ESPN. And she had already been banned from ownership for a couple of different times. She wasn't like Steinbrenner, who had people follow players and find out if they were gambling or not. Or like Steinbrenner did with Dave Winfield.
I didn't know that.
He had a private eye looking, following Dave Winfield.
Why?
I don't know. See, Steinbrenner, for winning all those games, and he was probably the ultimate micromanager. They actually started the Yankees started getting better once he was suspended for a couple of years, and Gene Michael and Buck Showalter were running the team, and things got better. And then all of a sudden he came back. Guess what? He fired Showalter, and then he brought then they brought in Joe Torre, and then he would just sort of string him along every year after year, about bringing him back or not. This man won you 3 World Series, and you're still not happy?
That's why I think the Yankees are doing better now than they did previous years, because they don't have that type of micromanagement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Suns, Hal and I want to say it's Hal and Hank Steinbrenner, but yeah, they're running the team, and you don't see any of this drama. Worst case, if you just want to talk about Girardi getting fired because they felt he didn't relate to the younger players, and that's another issue. And then maybe that Brian Cashman, the GM, took into account. Yeah, he went to the owners like, "Will you guys stand behind me with this?" And the owners are they're not you don't have those big sports personalities anymore. But that's one of those things that you sort of. I think the biggest thing you hear people talk about, the sports personalities of the 70s, they were so big, they were so grandiose, they were there, they lit up a room, the personality was bigger than anything else. The problem is, a lot of those personalities would not work now, especially now. For example, you look at the way they've gone through managers in Major League Baseball. Now they don't want these big experienced guys who have this knowledge of the game and who work on gut feeling alone and stuff like that. Now they want somebody who, analytics based, who will go along with the front office, who's easier to control and things like that. I mean, yeah, it worked for Houston, but it might not work for everybody like that.
So look at Aaron Boone.
Yeah.
He's the Yankees coach. This is his first year, right?
Yeah.
So he took a team that was already well coached and already well developed, and make them even better. But it's not like it's the Tony Dungy effect, as I call it, or Tony Dungy effect.
Yeah.
Tony Dungy He made the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team great. That year, after he got fired, the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl that year.
Well, that's the Buck Showalter effect too.
Everybody praising this guy as this thing.
In baseball, that's the Buck Showalter effect. Remember, got the Yankees. They got knocked out by the Mariners in the playoffs. Next year, Joe Torre comes in, win the World Series.
Yep.
And even then, that was dubious because that whole playoff series could have changed everything else. And then look what happens after he left the Diamondbacks. Bob Brenly comes in, players manager, boom, win the World Series.
Yep. So you're saying once he leaves the Orioles win the World Series?
No, not in this case. They're not in the shape. They're more like the Rangers. It'll take them a couple years. And like I said, it's all about the right manager. And I feel like this. Yeah, and even Bucks admitted it. Sometimes it's better you want to be the one walking down the aisle, walking the daughter down the aisle, as opposed to be the one sitting in there watching someone else walk her down the aisle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Man, we're going to have more of these discussions, of course, and then once we get Thran involved, it will go probably beyond the realms of insane. Anywhere in this realm gonna go. Yeah, and that's and that's gonna happen, and I expect that because 3 different personalities, 3 different people. My job will be more of trying to navigate traffic between everybody, and I feel like this is a little bit different from some of the previous episodes we had, maybe more along the lines of what I have with Thran. Some of these episodes, I talk to people that have very interesting careers and have interesting hobbies and talking about how sports is sort of involved in their lives and things that they do. And other times, it just straight up talk sports. And the biggest thing is, and I've talked about this before, I'm not a fan of ESPN anymore. It's just not interesting. All they do is argue about sports. And it's not that serious. Especially, it's the same one-note things over and over, as I've talked about it before. I don't care. As a person who lives in Delaware, who's from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, I don't care about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't care about LeBron James. I don't care about Golden State. I don't care about half of the other teams in the NFL. The biggest issue is that everybody talked about the best thing about ESPN is that when it was started, the biggest thing is that, you know what, you get more sports than you would get on your local news.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was true to a point, but now it's the same notes over and over. It's New England. I'm surprised, it's coming football season. If it isn't going to be about the kneeling, it's going to be about New England. Who else? They aren't even probably going to show Philly the proper respect, and they're the Super Bowl champions.
No. Yeah. Philly, they're not going to show Philly no respect because it's still about Tom Brady and his 50s, however old this man is, and everything else and stuff. And it's just crazy because I made a status last week on my Facebook talking about, hey, even Tom Brady had bad games and stuff. Because Jimmy G, he threw 3 interceptions and a touchdown. He went for 33. He still threw 261 and a touchdown. But guess what? They still lost 24-16 to the number 1 defense in the league of the Minnesota Vikings and stuff. Like I said, Tom Brady has bad games.
Basically, he had 4 bad Super Bowls and got bailed out twice. He had 4 bad Super Bowls. Like, I always say this. If Atlanta knew how to run the ball and Seattle knew how to run the ball instead of trying to be all cute, Tom Brady's 3-4 instead of like 5-2 in a Super Bowl. Everybody knows that. And it's all... Everybody knows that. I'll pull this like Jimmy Fallon playing as Adam Sandler. Well, he talked about Jeopardy. I love it. Your mama loves it. All this other. No, everybody knows it. I say this. Ray Charles knows it, and he's blind and dead, and he knows. Yeah. He knows that basically Tom Brady is 2 plays away from being, maybe John Elway.
Yeah, but see,
John Elway, 2-3 and 2-4 at the Super Bowls,
and John Elway is still considered as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah.
So I mean, even Tom Brady had a 3-4 record in Super Bowls. That's fine. People base it off of wins and everything else and stuff. Like I say, people try to have a discussion. I always have the discussion. I always have the argument. I don't care what people say. I don't care. This is my opinion. Eli Manning, he is not elite. He is not an elite quarterback. People say Eli's elite. Eli's elite. He got 2 Super Bowls. I said no. Eli got lucky by one fucking catch, and 2 by defense that bailed his ass out. He is not elite. You look at his seasons after that. Terrible. He is not an elite quarterback. I don't care what anybody say. You can bring me facts. You can slap me in the face with the facts. I'm telling you, he's not elite. He doesn't play elite. Ben Roethlisberger's elite, not Eli Manning at all. And I'm gonna stick to that.
I basically, you know my theory on Eli. I've always called him nicknames like the Imperfect Clone. And like I said, my newest one is Count Duckula. And for anyone who has never seen Count Duckula is a character from the cartoon Danger Mouse, a British cartoon that was on in the 70s or 80s, I believe. I feel like it might have been earlier than that, but you know, sometimes cartoons age better. But so basically on Danger Mouse, Count Duckula was a bloodthirsty vampire duck.
Yeah.
When they gave him his own show, they talked about the ritual, how they brought every Count Duckula back to life, where they would do a certain ritual and ceremony. And what they needed to do to bring him back to life, they needed a vial of blood to bring him back to life in order for it to work and him to be a bloodthirsty vampire. Now the mistake happened where ketchup went in instead of blood, and Count Duckula became a vegetarian vampire duck. So, and I always see it as, you know, Archie Manning and his wife tried to make another clone of Peyton, and somewhere ketchup got in instead of blood, and out came Eli Manning. But hey, guess what? Count Duckula beat Tom Brady twice. So, say what lucky. You want.
He got lucky. Come on, man.
Hey, in that case, Flacco got lucky too, and technically he should have beaten Tom Brady twice, because if it wasn't for a poor kick and a drop pass, that Joe Flacco should probably easily have maybe 2 Super Bowl rings.
And Joe Flacco got lucky at the Super Bowl against the 49ers. Michael Crabtree clearly got held. Everybody seen that.
The Niners were also getting their ass handed to them at one point in the game until the Beyonce power outage. Let's be honest on what it was. It was the Beyonce power outage.
Yeah. And it turned the tide. I don't know how that turned the tide. But yeah, but the power's going out. Oh my goodness. What's going on? And then
I know everybody talks about how sports are on the up and up, but if that doesn't give you an idea of that sports can somehow be, you could give you the idea of, man, sports can't be fixed. It's just crazy how it also took a power outage, a very long power outage, and everything sort of get itself back together. I am not a conspiracy theorist type, but if you ever want to use that as an example of how games can sort of be maybe altered to make it more entertaining, especially Super Bowl, that could have happened. But then again, we weren't so lucky with that Broncos-Seahawks Super Bowl where it was just a complete disaster.
Maybe they need the lights out for that game.
Maybe they learned from that. I don't know. Again, I hate being that type of person. I don't like being that person, the ill-informed sports fan, because I hear that enough on sports talk radio. Some of the fans have emotional-based takes and definitely not logic and definitely no proof or statistics. They just like going on emotion, and emotion is good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But come on, if you're going to be on the radio, don't make an ass of yourself.
Now you talk about sports talk radio, so I have to ask you this question and pose this question. I have to ask because recently it's been in the media, been on news, been on ESPN, been on social media, and a lot of people are acting stupid about this. First and foremost, Jason Whitlock. I'm gonna get to my question for you, but Jason Whitlock. What is your opinion about him? Because me and a coworker were talking about him, and my coworker said that dude be doing a lot of cooning around. So
I will take a note from a good friend of mine who I'm hoping to have on later on. He basically said that Jason Whitlock is, if you had to personify him as a fictional character, he is Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks.
Yes, he is. So Jason Whitlock was on ESPN at first, right?
Yeah, and but people forget Jason Whitlock, as like a lot of these people who are on ESPN, like or on Fox Sports, these people who have these shows, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Jason Whitlock, they were all journalists. They were print journalists. They were probably some of the few print journalists. And you got Jamel Hill as well. And I don't want to put her in that category of those, a lot of those guys. But yeah, a lot of those people were print reporters who made the transition to television. Not everybody can do that. And of course.
Yeah. Well, Jamel Hill, she got outcasted by ESPN for stating her opinion about Donald Trump. But all these other people can say what they say about whoever else, but it's fine. But as soon as you fart the word Donald Trump, it's an issue. You know what I mean?
But yeah, like I said, and I look at it, Skip Bayless is he gets paid to hate on LeBron James all the time. And it's ridiculous. Some of these things are beyond proof. I mean, he just says stuff to say stuff to the point where it's not even worth listening. I've stopped listening. I used to I've said this before, Undisputed. I love watching Undisputed because I thought it was going to be something different than the crap that you get on ESPN now. And I know I sound like a broken mirror or a broken record, and I've said this before, but seeing the order that this is coming out, this will be episode 11. But I mentioned it in 6 episodes ago. But it just got to the point where it just kept being the same things, and I thought it could have been such more. I don't expect to talk about NASCAR or other things, but the only shining beacon of that show is Shannon Sharp, and that's the only thing that makes it worth watching. I used to subscribe to their channel. And I still am subscribed to the channel, but probably not after a while. I don't even watch the clips anymore. They're not worth it. And, some people watch it for Joy, and I don't even know if Joy's still on that show anymore. But, some people like Joy, some people like Molly. There's no.
On Facebook, I look at a lot of people's comments. And, like, if there's 100 comments, 95 of them are about Joy, or about the female host, or the female co-host. So, I mean, this is, man. It's just what it is. But the question I was going to ask you, and I'd like to know your opinion, for being a sports journalist and doing news as well. Nike released a ad recently about Colin Kaepernick, with Colin Kaepernick in it and stuff, And there's a lot of backlash towards Nike and a lot of people's negative opinions and stuff. And I just would like to know what's your opinion about it. If you care, you don't care, and and do you think Nike did the right thing with it, or what the right way about it with it?
Now, I've only seen the print ad. I have not seen the commercial that everybody's talked about. Hey, as a privately owned company, they can do whatever the hell they want. And yeah, they saw some backlash, either way. You saw some people burning their shoes. Again, guess what? You already paid for them, so it doesn't matter. It's not like your money's going to magically come back if you burn those shoes. And apparently, as of, say this, and I'm going to put the date in, as of Friday, September 14th, 2018, when this was recorded, Nike stocks have went up. Nike sales have went up. So apparently, sometimes they look out for the long term. Yeah, this might cause a little bit of backlash, but hey, other people might buy it. And hey, as a publicly owned company, who am I to say anything? And I don't really care. Yeah, if you want to pay somebody, yeah. What am I going to? I mean, the only reason I'm not really big into buying a bunch of shoes, I have big feet. I have big feet, and I'm not paying $150 to $200 for size 13 shoes. I'll get cheap shoes wherever I want, where I can actually fit and that are comfortable. Sure, they'll tear up, but guess what? They're cheaper than buying a bunch of Nikes that will have wear and tear down the road eventually anyway.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, like I said, Nike can do what they want. Every business can do what they want. If there's enough people who are upset about it, then they won't buy it. And that's when you see businesses will be affected. For example, as a pro wrestling fan, WWE, their audience a lot of people who are watching tend to get turned off by the product. If you really want to show, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter now. Even if you don't buy their stuff, guess what? They're getting tons of money from Fox and from Universal. So, I mean, eventually they're still going to want to they're going to still do what they want anyway.
Yeah, look at Papa John's. After it came that he was heard using the N-word, a lot of sponsors dropped him. A lot of them. Well, one team dropped, another team picked him back up. New York Yankees, which sucks. Like I said, like I told my wife, I said that racist pizza is not coming in his house. That pizza's not coming here. I said ever since I'm boycotting Papa John's. I'm not never going to eat Papa John's. I don't even want to smell Papa John's. The Shorebirds Shorebirds don't Papa John's anymore, but the Orioles have cut ties with the Papa John's unless they decided to get back in good graces with them or something like that.
Well, I know MLB stopped doing the Papa Slam.
Yeah.
For a bit. I mean, and a while it was Domino's for the Grand Slam. Whenever someone hit a Grand Slam, you get a receipt for a free Domino's pizza. And I'm glad that Pizza Hut took the mantle of
NFL, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the reason. Not anything political. I prefer Pizza Hut over Papa John's. I know some people can call all the pizzas garbage anyway. A lot of people can call the pizzas garbage anyway, and maybe they're not as good as your neighborhood pizzeria, but I prefer Pizza Hut over Papa John's. I prefer their toppings over Papa John's. I prefer their sauce over Papa John's. I prefer their crust over Papa John's. And like I said, and even Little Caesars are getting to the stuffed crust game. So, I mean, Pizza Hut isn't a guarantee anymore because as long as you give me cheese and a crust, which is so American, and such a fat kid move, I'm going to want cheese in my pizza crust. And that's probably going to be the bigger thing that leans me towards Pizza Hut, and their wings are better. And you have Wingstop. Yeah. So those things give that an advantage.
Never been to Wingstop either.
We haven't yet, but they're building one in Delaware. Well, they're opening one in Delaware, not even that far from where we live. So
they got a wing in it.
Plus.
They got a wing in Salisbury, but like I said, I like the local wings, man. The local wings they make me love.
When it comes to wings, and we've had this discussion before, I prefer a crispier breaded fried wing as opposed to the skinless fried wing that people try to pass off as. So
you like it breaded?
Yeah, I like breaded. I want my wings breaded and fried. If you're gonna do your wings fried, I mean, if you're gonna do, I like like wingdings, fried wingdings, like Newark Station or IGA type wingdings.
See, you like them. See, I like the wings non-breaded, deep fry them, take them out, sauce them up. Boom! That's how wings are supposed to be made. That's how wings are supposed to be made. You know what? That'll be the national debate on this show. Now, Earl's viewers and listeners, all right. How do you prefer your wings? Do you like your wings naked with sauce? Or do you like your wings breaded with sauce? And also, do you prefer blue cheese or do you prefer ranch? That is the number one question.
now, coming back to the, I'm going to say now skip. Now skip. But now, skip. In all honesty, when it comes to a sauce, now saucy wings, no, I'll have saucy wings without the breading on there. I have no issue with that. My saucy wings have to be naked wings, but if I want fried wings, I want fried wings with the breading on it. Just like you're eating fried chicken. That's how I want my chicken. If I want fried wings, I want to sort of like you get them fried chicken. Yeah, you don't go to KFC or Popeyes and then fry the chicken without either putting any flour on it. What kind of madness is that? Taking the line from King Leonidas. What kind of madness is that? That's plain and simple.
I agree.
That's where my fine line is. I like it. I mean, I like saucy wings too, and everybody's sauce may vary because everybody's palate varies as well. Because some people might prefer other things more than some might like a little bit of. Some people might like a little bit of hotness on it. Some like a spice, and it all depends. I can handle spicy foods, but I don't really like it that much. And I don't want it to the point where I can't really taste anything. You want a little bit of heat, but not anything to the point where it's like, it's not even worth trying to eat.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I said, I love some spicy wings. And it comes to a challenge of eating some wings, I would eat them. The end result is not good, but I would eat some spicy wings. I mean, give me the hottest wings in the world, I'll eat them. I may not live to tell, but I'm going to eat them.
When it comes, you watch those professional eating contests, like the Nathan's Hot Dog contest and things like that. I feel like with competitive eating, I'm not saying it's not a sport. I'm not saying it's not a sport. I think it's a sport. More
of a sport than poker. Yes, I'm taking shots at poker because poker is not.
Before I get into the competitive eating thing, why is it about poker?
Playing cards is not a sport. Playing cards is not a sport. It's not. It's something you relax and do. eating contest is something you can't relax and do. That's between death and living.
I will say this. The thing is, if poker is going to be on ESPN, chess should be on ESPN. Seriously, because chess takes more strategy. But the problem is not a lot of people know how to play chess, but people can know how to play poker.
And listen, the same amount of time it takes to play poker is the same amount to play chess. The only difference is this. You need to get luck, but not ain't no difference really. The only thing you have to do when playing poker, you got to continue getting experience. Only way you can play chess is continue to get experience. You got to play. That's how you got to do it. That's how you do it.
And I feel like there's a little more drama in poker than you would in chess. Again, if you haven't play a game of chess, I don't know how to play chess. I don't even know how to play checkers. And I feel like, you know, if it was broken down to an audience where they would understand it more, that would be a very popular sport. I feel like that. I also feel like trivia should be also on. I feel like trivia should be a sport as well.
I see chess. Now you talk about chess, and you and Duran had a discussion about your sports announcer. If you had Dave Sims and Gus Johnson doing chess, oh my God, that would be the perfect combination.
Oh my, Gary Thorne. Hey, Gary Thorne is good as well. I'll say that. Sure, he'll get names wrong. Well, maybe he might get them right because there's a lot of Russian names, and he's good with that with hockey. But he, I feel like Gary Thorne and Gus Johnson. Like I said, and I mentioned before, the NCAA tournament is not the same without Gus.
Yeah. Gus is great. I love listening to Gus. I love listening to Dave Sims too, man. Dave Sims, his voice is just
so. And then when you said Dave Sims, it makes me think of this discussion I had before. The Reggie Cleveland All-Stars? Basically, Reggie Cleveland All-Stars are people whose names don't match their ethnicity. Dave Sims, you hear the voice. You hear the voice and you hear the name. As soon as you see him, you do not expect him. You do not expect him to be black. I did not. For years, I did not expect him to be black.
I did not. And Gus Johnson, I didn't think Gus Johnson was black either.
I knew Gus Johnson was because I remember I would watch the sportscast on Channel 5 in D.C. When we were living in Salisbury, and it would be him, Chick Hernandez, Steve Buckhantz. Those guys were the sports crew. Maybe their lines didn't intersect, but I know Gus was like the weekend guy. And I remember seeing Gus Johnson on there, and I was like, oh snap, it's Gus! I remember watching Gus on Channel 5. Like while Channel 4 had George Michael, and we didn't really get the other stations because we had a WBOC, we had a CBS affiliate and an ABC affiliate. I knew George Michael was the sportscaster on Channel 4, the NBC station in DC, and then Buckhantz, Chick Hernandez, and Gus were the sports guys on Channel 5, and then. Channel 6, you had your local sports anchors, Bob Lown. I'm trying to think who else. Like I said, Bob Lown was on there for the longest time. And if he gets a chance to hear this, shout out to Bob Lown, former WBOC sports anchor.
That was a while.
Channels 47. I couldn't really put a name with a particular sports anchor on.
But they're getting better though.
Now they're getting better, and again, I'm in an area where I can't watch either one of them, but I feel like 47 has really improved their sports department. I feel like new ownership really helped with that. But, like I said, there are particular people, you think of a particular face of a particular channel or station or network, and you're always going to have that, just like ESPN. Some people are going to say Chris Berman, some people are going to say Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, some people are going to say Stuart Scott, Rich Eisen, and it all depends on, your experiences and when you watched.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else. I know we are reaching the 2 hour and 40-minute mark on this, and that's in between pauses and technical issues and things like that. And once it gets cut down, it'll be completely different. So what you're hearing is how long we've been recording. On and off for most of this day, but I guess as we wrap this up, because I know everybody's got things to do, lives to live, and jobs to go to. What are the best ways people can? I always give people the chance to freely promote themselves. What are the best ways people can get up with you? I know you sort of went on a social media sort of, I wouldn't say purge, but you went on a social media hiatus at one point.
Yeah. And to be honest, doing the social media hiatus actually was a wonderful thing because as I left social media, I left the stupidity of people's opinions. And as I came back to social media, I find that the stupidity hasn't left, but the stupidity has gotten worse. So, that's my take on that. But to be reached, I can be reached on Facebook, Edward Holland Sr., Instagram, eholla86. My Twitter handle is @eholla86 and stuff. I mean, I'm very active in all of them and stuff nowadays and stuff. I usually post my daily either running or walking routines with my kids, my coworkers, or by myself. I'm just trying to get at it. That's trying to get at it in life and just trying to live the American dream. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and I think that especially the more we do these, I think there'll be a little more interaction, and I hope that this occurs. It's all about trying to find the right timing to getting everybody together. We've been trying to get this together before, and as you saw, as I mentioned in the intro for episode 5, you due to logistics, it made things a little bit tougher to you to make it. And then like this episode, we were going to try to do it again with Duran, and he had some logistics that made it a little tougher. Maybe I could have tried to call him and see if he could actually do it, but I was thinking initially we were going for the plan for a Tuesday, but we will have that one time where all three of us are together, and whether hopefully technologically it works, and that'll be the big thing, and we'll just see where the madness goes. But yeah, I do appreciate this, and we are going to do this again. And how this all turns out, I don't know. This, I don't know how this will all turn out, but I think if you enjoy it, let us know. If you have some comments, regardless, hey, we're tough. We're not these, as people would like to say, triggered, soft-skinned, snowflakes. And like I said, but I just say this: if you're going to say it on the internet, you better say it to my face. So, on that closing note,
I made a comment about that today too. I posted about that, a status about that too. And people, in articles and comments, people want to say what they want to say. I'm fine with that. But once you start getting rude, disgusting, and uninformed, and then just start attacking people for no damn reason, that's when I have a problem with it. People with the digital courage, stay where you are. Because don't forget, you still got to go outside them doors. And don't forget, maybe one day I may or may not pop up at your door and ask you, is your handle this name? Because I will let you know. I'm not saying I will physically assault you, but I will let you know to the face. I'm here. Say what you had to say about me now.
Oh, great. So you're going to pull Jay and Silent Bob. You're going to pull Jay and Silent Bob. It's like, are you so-and-so? Did you say the Jay and Silent Bob movie is this?
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, or it could, and like I said, I'm all for disagreements. Hey, I know nobody's going to ever think the same. Everybody comes from different experiences, but you got to watch your tact when you say stuff, because eventually it's going to come back to you. And the people who always talk about how sensitive people are the first ones to be the most sensitive. And I think that's the biggest issue.
Sensitive in the world.
Yeah, like I said, we can always agree to disagree. Like I said, there are things me and you disagree on, and we basically grew up nearly the same life and same background. Yeah, we're going to disagree on stuff, and that happens, and that makes life interesting. But there's a civil way to handle stuff.
Yeah. Life would not be exciting if everybody thought the same way and did the same way. Then we're robots. Then.
Like I said, like the Stepford Wives, or like 1984, where everybody just sort of under everyone's thumb.
Yeah, it's fine. It's great to be different. It's fantastic to be different, because then you can learn something from somebody different, or you can unlearn something that you thought was something that you really, really liked, and then people will tell you, hey, this and this reason, everything else and stuff. So,
I mean, and it's good at that, but you shouldn't always let it affect your impact on how you like something. Like, I'll use an example. Watching the show Scrubs. Show Scrubs is hilarious, but once you looking back at it with new eyes, haven't watched the show in forever. Probably since cancellation, see the reruns. Once it gets out of mind, we start seeing it. It's like, look at JD. JD is a very petty person that how anyone can see him as a protagonist. It's hard to because
that's what happens when you get older. That's what happens when we get older. Something we watched before. Like, oh man, this show is fantastic. Or the video games. I go back to when playing Nintendo 64 or playing the PlayStation. Like, oh man, these graphics are killer. And then you get spoiled by PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, and then you go back playing like, why in the hell did I ever like this game? The graphics are shitty, the storyline is terrible, et cetera, et cetera. Just like you said with Scrubs. You looked at it like, at first you were watching the show, it was entertainment. If you go back and watch it now, you're going to pick apart everybody's certain flaws and everything else and stuff.
And like it's still funny. It's still funny too. It's just like JD is not a really good person when you look at it. Yeah, you already knew Elliot's messed up. Carla's a know-it-all. Dr. Cox has some issues, and among all the other characters, and Turk has his issues, but Turk seems to be the more grounded character out of all of them, and JD is a petty little person that can't.
I thought Kelson was more grounded.
Yeah, and he has to play the bad guy because, and he even said in that one episode, because, sometimes you need people to unify and do their work, and sometimes they need that one person that everybody can either hate enough, sometimes you need a good leader to inspire you, or someone you hate enough that everybody puts all their petty squabbles aside and works together for the benefit of everything. But like Turk being the protagonist, I can see that, but JD, it's like, man, he is a very difficult person to like.
The character hard to like.
But there's also another thing with some TV shows. When you start out watching it, like it was the first time I watched Third Rock from the Sun. These quirky characters, that's cool. And then as it goes along, they become more dislikable every season. Yeah. Some of the things they do by the end of the series is I don't care about any of these guys. At least Alf was gruffy and rough, and then at least he sort of softened over the 3 years that he was on. But
there's only one show that I watched all the seasons through. That the characters, in my opinion, had gotten better as the season got along. I don't know if you watched it or not. Criminal Minds. I like Criminal Minds.
I have not watched Criminal Minds. I mean, I haven't watched it. This thing, I'm not really big into a lot of dramas. And I feel like the CW shows like Flash and Arrow, I have fallen off on Arrow, I'll admit that. But like Legend of Tomorrow, Flash, I watch Supergirl.
Those shows do nothing for me. I'm sorry. I mean, like I said, I wanted to, like I said, I was really excited about Flash. Arrow, when I was on my Arrow binge, the first 3 seasons, man, were fantastic. And then as I started to get in season 4 and so on and so forth, I was like, I couldn't like them. Now, talk about shows. Marvel shows on Netflix. All of them. The worst one is the terrible one is Iron Fist, the first season. But Luke Cage was good. Luke Cage had a slow build up. But Daredevil, from episode 1 all the way to into season 2, those 2 seasons were fantastic. Jessica Jones was fantastic. It had a slow build up for season 1, but season 2 took off right where season 1 ended and kept flying with it. The Punisher, by far, The Punisher is my personal favorite because it has everything that I enjoy in life: guns, blood, gore,
revenge,
cussing, realness. See, look. All right, so listen. The Punisher is the perfect example of how people should live life. It's basically, if someone fucks with you, you don't cry about it. You go back, revenge, and do something worse to them. And then after that, you're done. But most people it's like, what does revenge solve? Revenge solves nothing, but I got my satisfaction because that motherfucker's dead, pretty much.
But maybe the Punisher is the way that DC should do their movies. If you're going to do something like the Punisher,
Yes.
But
I agree.
That being said, they screwed up Superman. Superman should be the optimistic, should be the yin to the yang of Batman. Superman should be optimistic and you know, I'm not saying Lois and Clark type stuff. I'm talking about like maybe, and I think maybe, and it's maybe too much to use it, but the Christopher Reeve version. That should be the hope. If you talk about Man of Steel, what does your symbol mean? It means hope. There should be hope that, you know, you could be the better, Superman is the better version of yourself. Is better. Like I go with the Matthew McConaughey speech. And I know some people who differ on it, where he talks about when he won the Oscar, he talks about, I aspire to be better than I was yesterday, better than I was a month from today, better from a year, better from 10 years. Some people see it as arrogant, but I see it as self-improvement. There's nothing wrong. And there's always that thing of hope. Yeah. Optimistic hope, not like foolish hope where, you know, I hope to win $1 million or I hope to win the lottery. That's dumb. That's completely dumb.
I'm glad you touched on that subject too. Because there was an interview with Jim Carrey, and this was in his younger years before he started to get out the limelight of Hollywood, and he was on there discussing about, hey, when I got my first big check from doing living color, and he was like, I'm gonna take this check, I'm gonna hang it up on the wall, and I say in 10 years from now, we'll see how I improve and everything else and stuff. And he just went through that whole thing. He just saying 10 years come about, and then he improved on what he had made, but he still was humble for the fact for that $1 million, that $1 million check he got from the Living Color. He said that set the tone for him. He said, I want to be better than what I was. Especially I want to be better than what I am now, and I want to improve my life and stuff. So, which I thought was really motivational, man.
And then, actually, I thought I heard a similar Jim Carrey story where he talked about while he was still a struggling comedian, he wrote a check, basically $4 million, and he wanted to be able to one day say, I'm going to be able to cash this check for $1 million, which might be basically the same story or a variation of the same story. I always think of when you talk about $1 million checks, not cash, I always think about Ricky Henderson, where his first $1 million check with the A's, he got the check and he never cashed it. He never cashed it. So at the end of the year, the A's look at their books like, we have $1 million offset, and we try to figure it out. And it's like, Ricky, did you ever cash a check? It's like Ricky Henderson apparently, again, this is a story that I hear from other people that you hear, and how true it is. It might be one of those things they call like the Mandela effect, where you think you hear something, but you don't really know. He had the check in a frame. He had the check framed on his wall. He never cashed a check. But like I said, I always think of all the things that are tribute to Ricky Henderson, and I feel like, and I always go back to the story that is not Ricky Henderson related, but it sounds like something would have been a Ricky Henderson story about Chuck Carr, former outfielder for the Marlins, where the where the manager gave him the signal to bunt. And he's like, why didn't you bunt? He's like, Chucky don't bunt, Chucky hacks. And actually there was a Brewers blog called Chucky Hacks for a while that shut down, but man, those things. Yeah, there's some of the stories that you hear. Yep. But as we wrap this episode up, and the way things are going, I might just do this in like 3 or 4 different episodes. Actually, I might just do one big one. So, yeah. So yeah, that's the big thing. But yeah, this episode, very informative. Well, informative as in the means of you're learning something at least about us a little more. Maybe not as much. Pardon me. Maybe not as much as you would think. I mean, and this is different from some of the other episodes because more so I try to, I don't like trying to intertwine myself. I like hearing more about the guests. It should be more about them than it is me. And I feel like in this episode, you get to know a little more about me, and of course, get to know a little more about you as well. And like I said, once we have this group discussion with me, you, and Thuran, I think that will be one where
the apocalypse will come.
But it'll be worth it. Worth every bit of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
it'll be a fun,
like when you see a rainbow, when you see the sky when you see, like for example, when you see, I always use an example of like seeing great things before, beautiful things before something disastrous comes. Like if you see the sky is all orange, but then you see a rainbow, that's like seeing a basket of kittens and say, oh, look at a basket of kittens, then a nuclear holocaust starts. So, it's little things like that. I don't even know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to use that reference.
Yeah, but just remember, if you ever have a bad time, just remember that baby picture of the Ewok in the cage.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in his basket.
I might use that photo as one of the promo photos for the podcast episode, just because. Better than. Why not? I mean, at this point,
life is better than being an Ewok.
I have no corporate overlords that I'm talking to. I'm just talking to the people out there who are listening who want a very interesting, unusual conversation or something they learned about, and I feel like that's always good. Again, I do appreciate it, and we'll take this show a little offline. Thanks once again, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I had a fun time.